hit subscribe. Subscribe to my guy, Uncle D. Tell him Big Bad sent you.
Spurling. I'm an attorney here in Houston, Texas, an advocate for black men, largely because I am a black man. I'm a black father, I have black sons. Hey man, I do what I do. What's up? Welcome everybody. Welcome to the broadcast. Shout out to everybody in the chat room, man. Got a little mood music playing in the background. You guys make sure you hit the number 1 button as you come in. Let me know you can hear me clearly. Let me know you can hear me clearly. I need to know everybody is here and you can hear me clearly. You don't have a barn burner tonight. Okay. I'd like to first acknowledge 100 barbed wire. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And also hold the line. Thank you so much. And here's the thing. I'm going to big shout out to Hard Hitting History. Start off with thanks for having us again. Thank you so much. And you are the real MVP. You're the first person to contribute to the food chain, which means you understand what I'm talking about, baby. I appreciate you. God bless you so much, brother. All right, now, that being the case, anybody who'd like me to advertise on their behalf, anybody who has a company that they'd like me to advertise on their behalf, please feel free to contact me. You can email me at spurlingdennis@gmail.com. Now, I will charge you a small fee for plugging your product or plugging your company. I'm gonna have to get this final food because I'm gonna be out here selling stuff I ain't supposed to sell. Okay, I'm just gonna let you know that we ain't selling everything out here. Okay, all right. Okay, I'm just saying. You know what I'm talking about. I know people. Yeah, you sell everything, man. You said it's gonna be a reasonable price. It's gonna be a shout out. Okay, yeah, that ain't what I'm talking about. We ain't selling that. I'm not gonna be the plug. Okay, but either way, if you have like a small business, plumbing business, electrical business, hell, you might have a law firm. I might give you, but I don't know if I can give you a shout out as a law firm because that might be conflict of interest. I'm trying to get you car wreck cases. But if you have a product or a book you like to sell or something like that, hit me up at 713-229-0770. Leave a message at my office and I will get back to you. Okay, and what we'll do is we'll try to get people in here that have their own businesses, and we'll try to use it. I got a lot of people, man. You know, I got a lot of people, and I will be checking out your product. Okay, so if I don't like what you're selling, I ain't gonna be telling nobody. All right, but other than that, let's go ahead and get this work in, man. We got to get this work done. Look, shoot, man, unless you've been living under a rock. Well, let me just start off by saying welcome to the broadcast. This is Dennis Spurling. I'm so happy to be here, and today we're going to talk about. You guys see the thumbnail, right? You see the thumbnail. We're going to talk about what occurred with Jeffrey Epstein and the massive release of his files, and what's actually being learned from those files, and why this matters in the real world without rumors or fake stories. So, as you know, in late January, Department of Justice released more than 3 million pages of documents, 2,000 videos, 180 images linked to investigations into Jeffrey Epstein under a law that was passed by Congress. It literally is called the Epstein Files Transparency Act. They literally have an enact of law to get these people to release this stuff under penalty. Now, here's the thing. The goal was to make everything public within 30 days of law. It's already been like 45 days, okay? But the communications, the evidence, his networked activities. So Epstein's files are, they're in the millions of pages, and the FBI has court records documenting how Jeffrey Epstein arranged meetings, travel, access with powerful adults, supported by emails, photos, very shocking videos from his home and private claims showing who was physically around him. And they also include these horrible victim statements and internal law enforcement memos detailing SA of underage, XX chromosomes. All right. And how authorities investigated at the time, and how they mishandled the case, and which is why the news focuses on the documents and the context and evidence. Now, let me say this clearly, okay? And I want all the Black people to come to the room. This is, I'm preaching to the choir. I'm gonna preach to the choir, and I want all my foundational Black American people to come in here, because here's the thing: to us, to Black people, we're not surprised by this, are we? You hear about a rich white man with little girls, we're not surprised about that, are we? We're not really surprised. If you were surprised, hit the number 1 button. If you were surprised at what was going on, hit the number 1 button, okay? It's not because it's acceptable, by no means. It is not. It is disgusting, it's immoral, it's evil, but it's familiar, because Black people in this country were raised with a quiet understanding that there is a side of white folk, okay, deeply perverse, sexually deviant, and protected from exposure unless it just becomes too big to hide. And that understanding didn't come from rumors, it came from history. See, what we're looking at here is not the misuse of power or money or lack of accountability. What we're looking at is grown men exploiting little people, okay? And that's not a power problem, that's a moral problem. And see, these people are not confused, they're not misguided, they're not victims of temptation. This is not a one-off. They're doing it because they're immoral. And for Black Americans, this doesn't trigger shock, it triggers recognition. We know from slavery, from the stories we heard about our folks that used to work in the house. See, we always have this back and forth about the house N-word and the field N-word. Let me explain something to you. If you really began to read those slave narratives, you'd be like, you know what? I might not like being in the field, but it's better than being in the house. Because the person, the Black people in the house, or as they call them, the house slave, the domestic servants. Hell, even in Jim Crow, there's documented historical records that violence occurred against the most vulnerable and has long existed beneath the surface of this so-called respectable society. And this behavior didn't start with private jets and islands. It just got upgraded. Let me explain something to you. A lot of you people are uncomfortable saying out loud. It was so common during the American slavery that any foundational Black American who is watching this broadcast, every one of y'all, if you trace your ancestry back 6 generations, you will certainly find a white male ancestor. And not because of love. And it was not romance, it was straight up all the way out grape seeds. You understand what I'm saying? When I say grape seeds, it was grape seeds everywhere. And that's not an opinion. That's not an exaggeration. That is reflected in DNA data today. The average foundational Black American carries anywhere from 20 to 25% European DNA. And it didn't come from consensual relationships in a society where Black people had no legal personhood. In the 18th century and forward, it was so common in places like Virginia that the lawmakers literally rewrote the rule of inheritance so that the child followed the condition of the mother, meaning when an enslaved black woman got impregnated, those children became property also. And that wasn't whispered about, that was policy. Do you know between 1701 and 1799, especially in the places like Virginia, you had large numbers of biracial children just walking around the plantation who visibly resembled their white masters. This was not rare, it was routine, it was everywhere. It was so normal that people stopped commenting on it. Imagine some that outrageous being so we supposed to have a racial caste system, and you got all a bunch of little biracial kids around here with curly hair, green eyes, look just like master. We supposed to be segregated. It's that common. People didn't even talk about it. It's just like seeing the chicken on the farm, like you know. And the only reason we even have outside, commentary is because European folk would come over. European visitors came to the colonies, and they were confused, like, you know, how do we have this rigid racial caste system, but all these children running around here looking like white men of the land that own the land? Where did they come from? I mean, you know, I thought we was like against equality. Obviously, we all equal on the ground, laying down in the bed, I guess. But they came from white men regularly entering slave quarters, sometimes alone. Sometimes they brought their white friends and family to SA, enslaved black women and girls. You understand me? Women who had no ability to say no. And sometimes, often never mentioned, they also grapeseed grown men and boys. Not just for punishment, but for sexual gratification. And it was done on a regular basis. Look, man, let me be clear about something. Let me say that again, and we're going to talk about some hard subjects tonight. We're not just talking about grown women. We talking about small people. We talk about small XX chromosomes and small XY chromosomes. We talking about small people. We talk about acts that today would result in life sentences, registries, and public outrage. Back then, it was normal. And this is why when people act like Epstein represents some shocking moral collapse of white society, black people are like, oh, no, we are not moved. We are not surprised because we recognize the behavior. We recognize the pattern. And we recognize the excuses. I mean, family, you could look at Sally Hemings. This girl was 14 years old. She was attached to Thomas Jefferson, and she bore him multiple children. You understand what I'm saying? It's not rumors, not gossip. It's not hindsight. They can't call that a romance. She was 14. Thomas Jefferson was a middle-aged man. One of the most powerful men in the country. Shout out to Mr. Demigod. I mean, you know, look at Epstein, right? It's not about the moral. Looking at Epstein, they acting like it's something foreign to this country, and it's embedded in the moral DNA. We're looking at old behavior and new money. The transportation changed, the setting changed, the technology changed, but the immorality did not. You understand? And then this is not about racism as an insult. This is about truth as history. And this is about morality, not sociology. A society that once normalized the grape seed of enslaved small people does not get to pretend it's shocked when a wealthy white man later exploits those small people behind closed doors. And tonight, we're not here to be entertained by a scandal. We're here to be honest about what kind of behavior America has tolerated for centuries and why pretending this is unprecedented is a lie. And that is where we're starting. Now, I have some footage for some black people reacting to this hot mess. You all are welcome to hit the subscribe button. I need you all to help me get to the proper, I need to get where I need to get. That's where I need to get. So you guys know what you have to do. I need you all to hit the subscribe button. If you have not already, do that now. As a matter of fact, not only do I need you to hit the subscribe button, what I need you to do is make sure you hit the notification button after you hit the subscribe button. I need you all to take the time to hit the notification button because apparently people are not getting the notifications. Okay, so do me a favor and hit that notification button. In the meantime, let's go ahead and get some videos playing. Shout out
Jeffrey Epstein, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
That's Chris Tucker. Oh, Chris Tucker, what you doing, Chris?
I did. We flew Bill Clinton and a lot of different. Well, that was a humanitarian trip to Africa.
Okay.
And I met him on that trip because it was his plane. I didn't know who plane we was getting on, but it was a whole bunch of dignitary people who was with a delegation. And yeah, I met him, and you don't know people what they do in their private lives. So
you better watch who you hang around. Better watch who you hang around, Chris.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Tell me this, Chris. He was on this private plane.
And see, this is why you got to be careful of the company you keep. Sometimes we want to all go to the Diddy party. Aren't y'all happy y'all didn't go to the Diddy party now? Oh my God, rich, famous. Oh, I get to be with the celebrity. You get up in there and find out you in a nest of demons. That's where you are. You're in a nest of demons. Ain't no Jesus in there. Always running up behind people. But anyway, because they have a few more nickels to rub together than you do.
And you could tell that it was a private plane because they called it, was it Lolita Express?
Oh yeah, it was a private plane. Yes. Oh yes.
Chris Tucker explaining. Go ahead, keep explaining, Chris.
But wait a minute. You didn't never go to that island, did you?
No.
I
don't know where that thing at.
Okay.
All right, Chris, we're gonna let you slide.
He sound like somebody.
Jeffrey Epstein had going on, he still had the time to sit down and write an email about genetically optimizing black people. Apparently our physical capabilities are amazing, however, we're just not smart enough. Can we figure out a way to make those blacks smarter? I don't understand what the obsession is. Like, you're literally looking at black children and measuring their cognitive development as opposed to their physical development. This man said that the reason black people excel in physicality is because their brains simply are not on the level of their white peers. And since physicality is easier, they will excel at that rather than intellectual-based things.
Jeffrey was a stone cold racist. He was out there being racist. Yeah. Okay, let's keep listening. Let's the black people have something to say.
Any black girls on that island?
Y'all heard that, right?
Would you look at?
Why do y'all think Jeffrey Epstein didn't want black girls on the island? Y'all let me know. Jeffrey Epstein did not want black women on the island. Why is that? Tell me why.
God, racism really worked out in her favor with that one.
Racism worked out in our favor. Let's keep checking these videos out. You guys hit the number one button as long as you can hear them clear. All right, let's keep pushing.
Thing Jeffrey Epstein had going on, he still had the time to sit down and write an email about genetically optimizing black people. Apparently our physical capabilities.
Let's keep it pushing. Okay. Let's see here. Next up.
Everything Jeffrey Epstein had going on, he still had.
Get you out of here, man. All right, let me try again. All right, you guys make sure you hit the number one button. Have a little text.
And any black girls on that island?
We had you all. Y'all keep coming. I need you. You gotta get out of here. I need you to get out of here. So take a look and see that. Okay.
On the Epstein files.
You didn't. White people, why can't we be honest about literally anything? You saw MJ, he was photoshopped in, and that's the entire point. No matter where on the political spectrum you lie, whether it's Noam Chomsky, Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, or Steve Bannon, whites had to take a hard look at themselves this weekend.
Yeah, white people have taken it. I just, I don't want to get off the subject, but between, we watched a lot of white people take some L's since September, didn't we? Right? We saw somebody get shot at a school, and we saw a white woman get shot in January, and we saw another white man get shot in January. And now we're dealing with the Epstein. White people are not, you all are having a rough year. And it is only February, okay? It is only, y'all, White History Month is not going well for you all, okay? I'm just saying, it looked like white people are catching hell. Y'all been catching hell for the past a few months here.
And understand that the elites on both sides have always been complicit in creating the highly curated differences of opinion that have divided us and hold us hostage every single year on election day. All right. Doesn't matter what kind of white you are. Epstein is the brutal white reminder that the richest, whitest up.
A brutal white reminder. It doesn't matter what kind of mic you are. Go ahead, Mike. Oh, somebody says I have an echo. Do I have an echo? Let me know if I have an
Plus
echo.
are both complicit in not only erasing their own histories, but the histories of our countries, and the histories of our country's borders, and the histories of the indigenous people that used to live within our country's borders. Everyone else but us seems to know that we turn the horrors of our ununited states into the United States, and the horrors of our original white evil island boys into...
Is it better when I mute the mic? Let me know if it's better when I mute the mic.
The founding fathers, all while they got to use outdated concepts of race and gender to control the way that we vote, while they created ethno-states by any means necessary. Why white people are the only ones left that think religious people can be political, right? Because no religious person follows the racist class structures built by the redacted histories of the country's most racist, richest men, right? Especially the ones who created laws only to legislate their creepiest fetish. We're going to let the same rich white political actors define the actions of our countries with racism, sexism, and xenophobia while they call it a religion and make it unsafe for us to practice these religions, right? There's not a Christian in America who would be proud to be American. And there is not a Jewish person in the world that would be proud to... You get it, guys. Have a nice day.
Now, you guys are saying it's a small echo. Is that what y'all are saying? It's a small echo? Let me see if I can fix that. All right. I was actually playing some music in the background, so I'll turn that off. We don't want any echoes, okay? Let me make sure you don't have any echoes. Okay, hit the number 1 button to quickly.
3 month, y'all, because nothing says black excellence like finding out that black girls were learned.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Epstein Island. To me, that's not discrimination. That's divine protection. Black folks weren't allowed to get on the Titanic either, and we saw how that turned out.
So why do you all think black girls weren't allowed? I just want to take a quick poll. Why do you all think black girls were not allowed on Epstein Island? Okay, so they keep saying a slight echo. It's a slight echo, but nothing to trip about. It sounds like you're in a hallway. I'm not in the hallway. I'm right here. Right there. Yeah. Is it still a slight echo? I don't know why that would be. Let me double check. Okay. All right. Well, hopefully I can get that taken care of. But we'll see what we can do. If it becomes too much, I will change the mics. Y'all let me know. Okay.
No Epstein Island, no Titanic. Sometimes oppression can actually save your
Some of y'all saying it's bigotry. It was just racism, right?
life.
Right.
He told, "Don't bring me any N-words. Never ever brought any friends." At this point in the interview, attorney Barry advised the following. At Epstein's request,
no N-words. That's what Epstein said. No N-words. You hear that? Why do y'all think that is?
she at times met people on the beach and may have told them something to the effect of, "If you want to party, go to Epstein's." Following statement, shook her shoulders and head in the affirmative. Clarified that...
I mean, is this a bad thing? Did y'all want to get invited? All the black, did you want to be invited to Epstein Island? I mean, it sounds like a good thing not to go. To me, it sounds like a good thing not to go to that island. are y'all offended? Because I did see some people that were offended that they weren't invited to Epstein Island. Okay, I don't think that's anything to be offended about. Okay, let's keep it pushing. Hit the number one button if you can hear clearly.
Chattel slavery and what was done to black families, black children, buck breaking, sex farms.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I don't really want to talk too much about this, right? Because I don't want to get demonetized. It's already a touchy subject. But let's keep listening.
Taking their children, feeding them to alligators as bait. The list honestly goes on and on. If you actually sat there,
This is the level of depravity that black folk have known about living uh, with white folk here in the United States. Okay, so we know about that.
and read about the atrocities in detail, how gory it actually was during chattel slavery, you would be like majority of the black people who have been reading it and not be surprised. Is it disturbing? Yes. Is it bothersome? Yes. Is it surprising for us? No.
We are not surprised. We are not shocked. Okay, and it's very. Some people may take this as an affront, but as far as black people are concerned, we pretty much think all of those white T men, okay, are are out there. Okay, that's what we think. Okay, on that island, so to speak. Okay.
White people have been doing this for centuries,
Mm.
even before slavery.
Mm. Yeah, Greece.
So, yeah, stop
Europe.
drinking the Kool-Aid, y'all. Brush up on history. The only reason why you all are caring is because you realize and discover that it's happening to y'all. The Epstein files is just
What that it's it's embarrassing. Okay, it's embarrassing. You understand what I'm saying? They wish this happened to somebody else. This is embarrassing. How can you be this pristine, clean group of people, this angelic group of people, and you know, the high IQs? Somebody type the high IQs are taking L's, right? The high IQs they're taking hard L's, left and right.
the horrors of chattel slavery, but it happened to white children. It's
Mm.
the only reason why you guys are in upheaval. But when it was happening to black kids, when it was happening to our ancestors, so long ago, get over it.
Good point. She made a good point.
Just saying.
What I want you guys to do is look. I'm gonna take I need to get this sound together if I can. You guys hit the number one button. We'll take a quick break. But what I need you to do while we are breaking, okay? What I need you all to do is hit the like button. Don't play with me, okay? When I come back in here, I better see some like buttons hit. Y'all hit the like button. I'll be right
In this
back.
Spurling podcast, click your mouse pad. Yeah, we out back. Hit the like, hit subscribe. Don't just hate watch, cause we outside. Let them hate watch. Go and play pop. We just lay back. He don't play that. We don't play back. We don't play back. We go way back. Black men, yeah, we earn some. Tune in, gotta learn something. Uncle D podcast, bump it. Likes up, hit the sub button. Black men, yeah, we earn something. Tune in, gotta learn something. Uncle D podcast, bump it. Likes up, hit the sub button. This is Dennis Spurling podcast. Don't just hate watch, hit subscribe and let them know we outside. Don't hold hate, donate. Super chat, cash app. Put something in the collection plate. Church.
I want y'all to make sure y'all hit the number one button. And we're gonna kind of get back to what we like to do over here, man. I need y'all to check in at a certain point when it's time to check in. I need to checking in to start happening again. We got to go ahead and get this algorithm pumping. We'll try to make sure the sound is good. I want to make sure you guys can hear me clearly. I think I understand. Yeah, I'm checking on it right now. Let me see here. I think I can fix this real quick. But anyway, I got some more videos I want to share with you guys. We'll go ahead and cue those up and keep this thing moving along. But yeah, man, this is nothing new to us. Black people we know who we're dealing with. All right. So let's check out some more videos, y'all. You make sure you let me know if you can hear it when they pop up. I wanna, we got a very interesting broadcast. Check this out.
3 month, y'all, because nothing says black excellence like finding out that black girls were not allowed to be on Epstein Island. To me, that's not discrimination, that's divine protection. Black folks weren't allowed to get on the Titanic either, and we saw how that turned out. No Epstein Island, no Titanic. Sometimes oppression can actually save your life.
He told, don't bring me any N-words. Never ever brought any friends. At this point in the interview, attorney Barry advised the following. At Epstein, she at times met people on the beach and may have told them something to the effect of, if you want to party, go to Epstein's. Following statement, shook her shoulders and head in the affirmative. Clarified that after what Jeff had done to her, she did not.
Shout out to Quan DTM.
He repeated, and she decided finding other girls for him, strangers she found in town, might spare her more abuse.
All right, yes, it's black people talking about it. Let's we'll keep it pushing. We'll keep it pushing. Got a couple more talk about.
Chattel slavery and what was done to black families, black children, buck breaking, sex farms, taking their children, feeding them to alligators as bait. The list honestly goes on and on.
Ooh, child, these Epstein files got people in a chokehold. Everybody's shaking in their damn boots. They don't want their name to be mentioned. But looky here, it's not even about who name is in the Epstein files. It's about who name didn't make the Epstein files at this point, because everybody name up in there. So let's get started. D.L. Hughley made a list earlier about who's not in the Epstein file. I'm going to piggyback off of his list, and I'm going to add my own people to there. I'll give it my own little twist. So let's see who's not in the Epstein file real quick. The radical left, we didn't make the Epstein files. Transgender people didn't make the Epstein file. Domestic terrorists, like the two people who were unalived in Minnesota who were protesting, they're not in the Epstein files. People from shithole countries, they're not in the Epstein files. The cat-eating Haitians in Springfield, Ohio, they're not listed in the Epstein files. The people from garbage countries, the Somalian people who he called garbage, they're not listed in the Epstein file. The Dearborn Muslims are not listed there. The undocumented immigrants who they like to call rapists and say
she's kind of turned this into something political, but everybody always takes the opportunity to say whatever it is they want to say. Keep hitting. Y'all hit the number.
In the Epstein files, our king.
That's right.
Our king. Michael Jackson, the Prince of Pop, is not in the Epstein files. And while we're at it, since it's Black History Month, did you know that he was acquitted of all the PDF charges that were brought against him? You know the media never went back and cleared that up. They just tarnished his whole legacy, and he's still known as that to this day, even though they took it to court and he was acquitted of all those charges. So if there's a PDF file island and Michael Jackson was known or accused of being one of the biggest PDF files in the industry, I feel like he would have been on there. Although they didn't let any N-words on the island. It's Michael Jackson. If he was part of that whole gang, I think he would have definitely been welcome there, but he wasn't. Our king was not on the island. Okay? Long live Michael Jackson. We can enjoy his music.
number one button.
So I've seen a lot of people talking about the Epstein files and how one of the things is that he didn't want any NIIG hard ER girls there. But a lot of people.
I just want y'all to point out, and there's a lot of people that are fixated with the fact that black women were not on the island. That's a good thing. Can we all agree that that's a good thing? It's a good thing that there weren't any black women, but a lot of people are talking like they're offended. I mean, you kind of hear the tone of it like, we know, yes, we were. I mean, don't be offended at that. That's a wonderful thing that we weren't on the island. That's a great thing that we want. But see, a lot of people, I know where it's coming from. I'm gonna deal with it when I finish with everything else.
People did not continue to read to see why he did not want us there. He said because our girl.
Yeah, so that's not really something that we want to. That's not a bad thing. You know what I'm saying? That's a wonderful thing. Y'all hit the number one, but we're gonna keep it pushing. Okay, here's the interesting. I want y'all to check this out.
Like, there were no black women on Epstein's island.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
There were no black women on Epstein's island. Do you really, in your heart of hearts, believe that there were no black or brown or Asian women on Epstein's island? This is how I'm going to make sense of this. I went to school for Clegg and journalism. Clegg was...
What did you go to school for? I'm a little distracted. What did you go to school for, man?
Communications, legal analysis, economics, and government. So I learned about law. My freshman year, so please forgive me if I don't remember the exact terminology for it. My freshman year, we had a Metro PD officer come into our classroom, and he talked about how he goes about doing his investigations. He brought up a term called NHL, which means no human life, or something along the term. People who will really know what I'm talking about, please leave it in the comments. But what he basically was talking about is when they go to the scene of a crime and the person who's been murdered is like a drug dealer or a prostitute or someone who was not considered...
I feel like I need to give you a towel to clean my face off.
Considered worthy of being considered a human being by societal standards. This could be a homeless person who obviously has no paperwork and documents, so that means there's no way to reconnect them to their family. Like I said, a prostitute, someone who works on the streets, a drug dealer, a little black child. Like, this terminology mostly is applied to black and brown people, no human life, which basically excuses them.
I don't know about this. We're gonna get somebody else to talk. Y'all hit the number one, but let's keep it pushing to get some more people to talk about the conversation because some people we just don't let. Let's go somebody else.
About these Epstein files is this: many non-black people are extremely shocked and offended that the atrocities that they're reading about are happening to them and not just black people. But let's just talk about it. Now, before you say it's not a race issue, just look at this right here.
No black girls allowed on Epstein Island? Here's why. Jeff gave in at some point and told him, yes, I'll find some friends. Jeff wanted young, fresh girls, virgins. He told, don't bring me any N-words.
N-words.
That's right. Epstein did not want any N-words
N-word.
on his island.
Why do y'all think
in
that?
reality,
I don't
it's a
think
huge shock right now that cannibalism, the PDF...
Not on the Epstein files, so that means Jeffrey Epstein is racist. And so are a lot of you. And first of all, this is the one time racism actually saved black people. It's literally...
That's right. They're offended. That's a good retort. They're offended by the N-word, but not exclusion. You know what I'm saying? Hey, look, man.
The first time that racism has ever worked out for us. Also, it is very telling that you're using Epstein not wanting any black girls, black children on his island as a gotcha moment. It's like you feel he should have gone after little black girls instead of...
Yeah, it's a lot of that going on, man. It's a lot of people say, see what they want to say. Oh, see, Epstein, is saying the same thing about you that we say, and you know what they want to say, and so that's why it's like this is a wonderful thing. This is one whatever his reason might be. It's a wonderful thing that black girls were saved because of that.
Little white girls, which is something black people keep pointing out. You don't really care that these effects with this whole administration are happening. You just care that they are happening to you because you only feel black people are the only people who should be experiencing. Yeah, but like one content creator, a white woman, said, and I'm paraphrasing, she broke it down how white men in white communities abuse white women and white children, particularly little girls. And
you hear that? You hear what I'm saying? Y'all listen to this? White people are catching L's. The high IQs are catching L's. I don't want my IQ to be that high. Okay, if having a high IQ make you want to go off the island, I don't want my IQ that high. I don't want to have your level IQ. I want to either be below your IQ or higher than your IQ. I don't want that IQ. Okay, because that IQ seems to make you do weird, strange, degenerate things. And black people don't like it. We don't want that IQ. Okay.
Table has talked about this before with all of the grooming, the PDF, and I've talked about this before when I talked about white men's violence towards white women. Why would you think that somebody who would enslave black people for 246 years is a good person? Why would you think that they would not harm you? They harm everybody. And also, PDF activities are a major component of classism and white supremacy.
You hear that? That's what they do. This is what she's saying. I don't have any empirical data to back that up, but she said PDF activity has a lot to do with so-called class and society. White folk, high IQs. Y'all want to run up behind them people if you want to. You go run behind them people if you want to. Uncle D is gonna stay right here. Y'all gonna run right behind them if you want to. Isn't that something? I mean, look here. What I'm trying to say is this. Sometimes you need to be thankful. You need to be thankful for what you have. And exclusion is protection. Okay? Let's keep listening.
These men do not care about anybody but themselves. They don't even care. I mean, I know they have fooled you into believing about the protected white woman and protected innocence. A lot of you know it's BS. And especially these men, the richer they are, the older money they have, the older they are, they have created systems that are so perfectly put that they don't even have to do the actual abuse itself. I'm sure when you hear some of these stories from super wealthy white people, you are like, they did what? But it's not shocking. It's a part of daily lives. There was a time where white men would put their white wives into psychiatric hospitals, keep them medicated, groom their little girls. If you go on Netflix and watch, I believe it's called Keep, Pray, Sweet, about Warren Jeffs and the Mormons, all of those wives, teenage girls, I think some are young as 12, they're all white. There is not a single person in the entire, his entire, all those.
So again, this level of debauchery is not new to black people. We've seen this before, okay? We've seen it. You understand what I'm saying? This is not anything new to black people. That's why these Epstein files are, they're not shocking to us, okay? Just keep that in mind. And just to dispel
that I reject that black people are less intelligent.
This is Epstein right here. This is out of his own mouth, okay?
Intelligent than white people. It's not true.
Okay.
We know, for example, that if I was in the forest and I had to run from the lion or figure out a way not to be eaten, and my competition is a local African, I'm the one who's getting eaten because they have the intelligence to deal with their local environment.
Why you put us straight to Africa?
So it's just different. It's not better, it's not worse, but there's many differences amongst different types of people. And so people have different intelligences, and they excel in some intelligences usually, and less so in others.
In other words, he's saying some people are good at some things and some people are good at others. That's no way to judge intelligence. High IQ is about being able to solve problems. You understand what I mean? And taking an IQ test and being able to solve things on a piece of paper is different than resolving things in real life. You drop some of these so-called high IQ people in a tough situation that many of you all have had to deal with, and they will fold up like wet toilet paper. I want you all to keep that in mind. Hit the number one button. Let's keep pushing. We'll see what other people have to say.
Thinking about it, and I really think we're asking the wrong question. Why didn't they have black people there?
Mm-hmm.
Like, for real. Like,
we don't want to be there, baby. We don't want to be there. I don't know why people keep trying to put us there. We don't want to be there. We happy we weren't there.
Really think about that question. I know a lot of y'all are going to be like, oh, it's obvious they were racist. But they were literally assaying, unaliving, and assaulting all the white people there. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Why would they do that to their own kind?
What does that tell you? What does that tell you if they're willing to do it to their own kind? What does it tell you? Huh?
You feel me? Then I'm like, okay, maybe it's just because, like, I'm gonna just use black men as an example. Black men are strong, some black men, but I feel like we're all strong. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, I feel like black men would have been a fight. You know what I'm saying? But then you have people like Sasha Riley, who literally could fight and defend themselves, and they still abuse. You know what I'm saying? So I really feel like we really need to start thinking about what we're actually saying. Obviously, we don't want it. We definitely did not, us black people, no, we didn't. I'm sure none of them wanted to, you know what I'm saying, be there. But why not black people?
Why?
Like, do you get what I'm saying? Why not abuse black folks? We went through slavery.
We don't want to be abused. We're not begging to get on the island. Where are all the good black people with common sense at? I need some more black people with common sense, because these black people are acting like we didn't miss out on anything. Okay, this is not Fantasy Island we went to. This is PDF Island. We didn't want to go there. Okay, stop it. I mean, do we have? I'm just saying, family. Is our self-esteem this low collectively that we want to be on the island with the PDF people? Is that what we want? I don't want. We don't want to be on the PDF island, man. And this is what it boils down to. I just found this. These are the videos that I'm finding. Like, black people angry, not angry, but black people. Oh my! We don't want to be on the PDF island. Okay, and it's not just black men.
Any black girls in Epstein's Island. Okay. There's been some people saying that there was no black girls. That's a lie. For example, Lisa Phillips is a black model, and she was on Epstein's Island.
Bro, that's one model, bro. We talking about, sir. Why are we so desperate to get on this island? We don't want to be on that island, sir. We do not want to be on the island with the PDF people. Okay, I don't know why people keep trying to put us on the island. We don't want to be there. That ain't the place we want to be. Okay, the only island most of us want to be on is we want to get off that cruise ship, walk around Jamaica, and get us a little Rasta wig and get back on the boat. We don't want to be on that island. Okay, why do y'all keep trying to put us on this island, sir? We don't want to be there. Do any of y'all in the chat room want to be on this island? If you want to be on this, if you don't want to be on the island, hit the number one button. If you are disappointed that black people were not on that island, hit the number 2 button. Let's take a vote, because apparently I don't know what's going on. Apparently I'm all off. I'm thinking this is a wonderful thing, us not being on the island, but we got all these people think we deserve.
There was also a report based on evidence by the FBI where a South African ID card of girls, but the names were redacted, was actually on the island. And also,
I mean, why do we have to fall into this? We don't want to be. Okay, we stretching kind of hard just to be victims here. So I mean, look, let the white girls win the Victim Olympics this year. They let them. It's the Winter Olympics right now. Let them win these Olympics. We don't. We good. We good. We got it. We good.
We know that when Epstein was traveling to South Africa, he was collaborating and working with some South African model agencies, I believe in Cape Town, where girls were being taken from Cape Town to the island and to some of his other modeling agencies, like in France, that he was associated with, like in France and New York. So the idea that black women were not part of the whole operations with Epstein is false. There were black girls that were part of this whole thing.
Sir, all the evidence indicates, all the evidence indicates there's no black women on the island. Sir. Okay, and we don't want to be on the island. Okay, black women are already saying black men don't protect them. And now you trying to put us on the island. We were on the island. Sir, we don't want to be on the island. I don't understand that. That don't make sense to me, but we're going to keep it pushing. We're going to see what else these people have to say. Y'all hit the number one button.
Knew racism would have saved a lot of black girls from creeps. Learning that black girls wasn't qualified to be amongst Epstein and his creeps. It's like another racism saving our lives, saving these girls' lives. I mean, granted, the victims that went through it, like, don't deserve that. Like, how you being cruel or being racist by being cruel? Talk about our black girls would have been more difficult to deal with, or it would have been harder to change their mind.
Good. That's good. They would have been more difficult to deal with.
How about we just don't do it at all? How about you don't be a creep at all? Black, white, orange, pink. How about you just don't? How about you just go after people who are your age?
I'm gonna speak for all the black women with common sense. They are not offended that they were not invited to that funky island. Okay, they did not want to go to the PDF island. There's nothing there for them to do. Okay, they are not offended. Let's not make this a black thing. We have enough issues to deal with. And speaking of which, we got this cat. He's trying to get us involved in it. I want y'all to check this out. Right, this is white man. White man. Look at the white man trying to get us. He wants us to impeach Beyonce or something like that. Listen to this.
So I got a message for the BLK community. Since we're so separate from y'all, since y'all are so different from us, right? Why are y'all worried about our Epsteins?
Are you getting sensitive about something? Sorry. Our Epstein's, yeah, he's y'all. We're not worried about it.
Why don't you focus on your Epsteins?
What you mean?
You're driving around in your cars that we paid for, listening to Jay-Z and
he said he paid for y'all cars. Go ahead.
Beyonce's music. They're all on the list. Why don't you deal with them? Why you in
what list are they on, sir?
WYT people's business?
I mean, because it's all everywhere, sir. It's everywhere. Don't be mad. Are you offended, sir? The people, how's this your business? It's all over the news. We can't help it. I mean, you make comments on P. Diddy and OJ, and I mean, you're still mad at some of these things from years ago, and now this is y'all. Y'all can't be mad now. Y'all get some same treatment. It's a lot of bad press. Y'all getting a lot of bad press. Okay? And you can get mad all you want to with your sweatshirt on and your hoodie. But,
You can't even deal with your own business. You glorify Jay-Z and Beyonce. You say they're the greatest people in the world, right?
We don't say that about Jay-Z and Beyonce. They're the greatest people in the world. Sir, what are you talking about? Where is this coming from? Sounds like a lot of pent-up anger and frustration, sir.
And you worried about ours. We deal with ours. Y'all condone yours.
Obviously not. Obviously not, because the island was there and was there for decades. And I'm absolutely certain there's some more little Epstein Islands, probably in Utah and Iowa and those other places, in Idaho. That's amazing. That's amazing. Let's keep listening. Hit the number one button.
We're still waiting. Where's the backlash for Jay-Z and Beyonce?
I mean, he looked like a founding father with that beard out here, man. Shout out to Fake One. I mean, you out here with the founding father.
Say, in the same paperwork that you're trying to use against Trump, Jay-Z and Beyonce are all in it. And there's video with them.
What video? We had, don't you know if they had video of Jay-Z and Beyonce? That would be all over the internet right now. Are you kidding me? Let's keep listening to what people say. Let's see who else. Why are we fixated
Believe
on
Epstein did absolutely nothing to little black girls? Absolutely not.
Well, I mean, they really about what you believe, brother. Where's the evidence? Okay, they've listed 3 million. They've listed 3 million. Why are we trying to get involved in this? I'm just saying. Okay, I'm just saying we good. Okay.
So there's a post that's going super viral about Jeffrey Epstein and little black girls. And if you haven't seen it, don't worry, I'll show it to you. No black girls allowed on Epstein Island.
That's a good thing.
You can read it for yourself, all right there, where Jeffrey made it very clear under no certain conditions were black girls, or as he liked to call them, the N-word, allowed to be on his island. So while Epstein was engaging in this blackmail operation that involved child trafficking, he made it real clear that he had no problem being a racist person at all.
Great. Is it racism? I mean, we just don't rate. Is it racism? I don't know. He said no. I mean, I guess that's the easy fallout, but do you even know? And what if it is? Great. Isn't that wonderful? Racism helped us. You know what I'm saying? That's like, that's like being the stinky kid that pees on yourself and you dirty and nobody wants to kidnap you. Isn't that great? Like, why is that bad? Oh, you too stinky to get kidnapped. Oh, wonderful, right? Where's the problem? Where is the problem?
So the question now goes out to all of the people out there who are still supporting Donald Trump, that are black, people of color. What do you have to say about this? Just think about how evil
Say about it. I have nothing to say about it.
Of a person you have to be to do
that. We supposed to be mad that Epstein didn't want black girls at the island, and somehow that has to do with the current president that's already the president. Like, I mean, I'm just saying,
do what Epstein did to those girls and then to be a racist on top of that. That's the type of person he is, and that's who people like Donald Trump hung out with. Do I believe Epstein did absolutely nothing to little black girls? Absolutely.
I know, but brother, there's no proof. You gotta have proof. Okay, there's already one comedian getting sued for messing around with Trump. Do you want to get sued too? You're going to end up getting the White House lawsuit playing with Donald Trump. The man is suing people for trying to. I mean, this is not where I was trying to go with this project. I'm gonna be honest with you. I just pull the video footage up and I deal with it. But to me, we are more. We want to be on that island. I think we want to be on the island. Why would we want to be on this island? With all this debauchery and foolishness going on, we don't want to be on the island. That is not our place to be. Okay? But let's move on to the next one so we can get to moving with the show. We got some work to do. I got to take. I know I'm confused too. Baby said she's confused with the argument. Let's hit this one up right here.
What I don't like is that now people have been begging and waiting for these Epstein files. And then what the first thing they go do? They go drop Jay-Z name.
The black man.
They go drop the Pusha T. Like, nigga, it's way more people that people been wanting to see on them Epstein
We
files.
not bringing up Trump.
But they know how we bring our own people down the most. They
you got people right.
Know how we get anything we get to talking about, it goes viral. Yeah, we're distracted from the bigger picture of who's really in them Epstein files. So get back to that's what we need to keep our focus at, in my opinion.
That's who's really in the Epstein. A bunch of little white girls and rich old white people. Okay, that's who's in that.
Back on those people behind the scenes.
I agree. They're trying to blackface the Epstein files, so they already have.
He don't like N-words. He can't He's not like N-words. He specifically said, "I don't want these N-words here."
Use Diddy to try to make him the face of grape. Now they're using Jay-Z to try to make him the face of grape. They're just threw Pusha T in there. They're trying to say Jay-Z drugged and raped multiple women. The overall aspect needs to be the people that's running the show. Not the bottom tiers, because we all know if anybody in hip hop is involved, they are the lowest. They the motherfucking Exactly. Let's cut the head of the snake because I believe.
Man, that's right. People upset that black people aren't on the Epstein. This is where we at. These are not normal. These are not my people. I'm just gonna put. I refuse to believe. I'm happy that the little black girls wanted the Epstein file. Here, even the Nigerians are trying to get
anyone
into it.
discuss the part of the Epstein files where he's writing to evolutionary biologist Robert Trivers about studying the bodies of Nigerian women because they are better designed for reproduction. He talks about the lumbar, the arch of their back into their behind, and how the curve of their hips is ideal for reproduction. And they casually discuss getting access to Nigerian women to x-ray them. They talk about a 14-year study they completed in Jamaica on the legs and knees of
Nigeria and Jamaica. Epstein, he's looking at y'all. He's looking at
the best Jamaican athletes and runners. I have not seen that discussed. And what I'm concerned about is what we're going to find out about how they were accessing black bodies, whether there was consent, likely not, as we can anticipate, how Bill Gates and his access and ownership of medical facilities probably provided access to black bodies. Tuskegee experiment, these types of behaviors have not ended. And yeah, what? No one's talking about it.
Nobody's talking about it. Let's keep on going. I got one more of these videos we're going to check out, and then we're going to get to the main body of the conversation. Y'all get the number one.
Hear that Epstein said, he ain't want no black women on Epstein Island. He said, I don't want
Shout out to Tori and Joe.
no NIGGERs, right? And then his other emails, he made it clear that he thinks black people as a whole, black people are ignorant and idiotic. And he doesn't want to be around them.
That's great.
We good.
Yeah, we good.
More rejection is protection, ain't it? Shit. Because whenever those Epstein photos come out, you know what they're looking for, right? You know what people are really looking for? They're looking for black folks.
Yeah.
They don't care. They know this thing is riddled with white folks, right? Whenever the Epstein photos come out,
you got nothing to do with that.
They're only looking for one thing and one thing only.
Can't find
black folks.
That's what they try.
But my thing is this, right? A worldwide child ex trafficker into all kind of nefarious things, all kind of craziness, demon worship, all these little weird things, right? All these weird projects he got going on, right? And they still got black folks on their mind somehow.
This is a white people problem. This is clearly a white people problem. All right. So anyway, let's go ahead and have a conversation here. You guys, if you learn something, I should earn something. I want to talk to you all about Black History Month. Okay, this is Black History Month, so we can have some Black history. Let me say it like this here. And I kind of broached the subject already. I kind of let you guys know where we're going with this. First of all, let me say it like this. I think the only reason this is being treated as such a big deal is because it clearly distorts white people's self-image and it hurts their feelings. Somebody type feelings in the chat room, okay? It paints their leaders as monsters and horrible, depraved monsters and all sort of false Christians, and because these people, swear up and down they're Christians and they're holy and they're God-fearing and they're freedom-loving and they're angelic and they love Jesus, but only the white Jesus. Somebody said, turn your mic up. I'm gonna turn. I got you. Let me see. Is that better? Let me know if that's better. Can you guys hear me now? Is this clear? Is it better? If you can hear me now, let me know. If you guys can hear me clear now, let me know. I'm gonna try to work this. Is this better? Let me know if you can hear me clearly, folks. Let me know if the sound is clear. I need to know if you guys can hear me clearly. Is the sound clear now? Mic check, microphone check. Are we clear? Feelings? Okay, can y'all hear me? Are y'all able to hear me clearly now? Let me know. I need to know before I go. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, their feelings are hurt. They looking bad, so they looking around for black people to blame. You see? And so basically this situation is such a degenerate mess that it can't be hidden anymore. So now they're pretending to be shocked and acting like this is something new. But the truth is, This is part of their culture. And it always has been, and they know it. And because they know it, and they know who they are. They know, white people know this is what they do. And I'm not basing this conclusion on outrage or headlines or rumors. I've done detailed analysis, okay, of the FBI crime statistics, and we can go as far back as 2019. And I'm going to actually pull it up because I want you all to see for yourself. I'm not making this up myself. You can go right online right now, and you can go to the FBI statistics, okay? And you can pull it up yourself, and you can see what exactly what the FBI statistics show as far as arrests for PDFs, for essays, okay, and people who eat too many grape seeds. You understand what I'm saying? It's all right there for you to see. Now, I'm going to show you what it looks like, so you guys can do this on your own. But when you happen to go check that stuff out, okay, what you're going to top left for you guys. All right, you go over there. And that all I'm saying is we're gonna have to have an honest conversation. This is not new. They just got caught. Okay. Now, if you look at that, can you guys see that clearly? Is that clear enough for everybody to see? Let me know if it's clear. All right. This is the FBI crime stats for the United States, and what it shows is that white T males, okay, account for the largest share of arrests and convictions in several serious S-word crimes and categories. And when you're looking at the raw numbers in the official U.S. data, federal sentencing statistics, child S-word naughty stuff cases, 79.4% of the arrests are white T males. You understand me? In non-production child naughty stuff is 79.4%. And when you talk about who produces it, 59.7% of white T males are the ones arrested and convicted. You understand? And these figures reflect federal convictions. It's not on the. They're not doing the state stuff. You understand? This is not even state. This is just the federal. And so when you talk about, if you look at the FBI crime stats from 2019, and this is right here on table 43, and it's divided. You got the race, okay? This is the race right here. Slide all the way down. All these categories. You get this right online. Okay, and it has the sex. You understand what I'm saying? They had 16,599 cases of grapeseed arrests nationwide. And of that number, 69.8% involved white T people. But we know that grape seeding is predominantly something that's done by men. That means that white T males reflect the major number of those folks. You understand? And see, taken together, this database, it demonstrates that white T males represent the largest percentage of arrests and federal convictions in those categories. You see? All right. Now, are you guys able to hear me clearly? I need to know if y'all can hear me clearly. Can y'all hear me clearly? All right. Can you guys hear me clearly? I'm trying to get this microphone. But look, again, this is not the claim. I'm just telling you what it is. And so I bring all that up to say this, and I want you guys to understand this. Have y'all ever heard of the term honeypot? Have you ever heard the term honeypot? Do you know what the honeypot is? Have you ever heard the term honeypot? Is that term familiar with you? Honeypot. I want you to think about something. So there's some people saying, and I don't necessarily subscribe to conspiracy theories. Okay, I don't really necessarily subscribe to conspiracy theories, but if you subscribe to the conspiracy theory, shout out to Fake One. If you subscribe to the conspiracy theory that Epstein is some kind of intelligence asset, right? And he was, if you think Epstein was working for, some agency somewhere, right? And he was trying to set these people up so that he can compromise them, with these trafficking charges to get all these rich, white, powerful politicians, get something over them so he can use it as leverage against them. And you have to recognize that he knew how they would fall. He knew that they would fall for it. You understand what I'm saying? That's called a honeypot. I mean, we see it in the movies all the time. You get these agents, they get them in there, and they get a pretty girl in the bar and hang out with them. And next thing you know, that he's pumping her and she's pumping him for information. And she works for some foreign intelligence agency. You understand what I'm saying? It's called a honeypot. Okay, and so again, what I'm trying to just break this down to you is black people are not surprised and white people are not surprised either. They know themselves. You see, and it says more, this is an open, what it means, look, white people, he knew white people so well that he knew that if he created a situation where they could have underage small people, right, available for them to exploit, they would come running. That's basically what that says. And that says more about the open secret of white culture and the depravity within it than anything else. Tim Tebow just recently stated that the number one consumer of underage stuff that you shouldn't be watching are white, college-educated, middle-aged men. And you just saw the FBI stats, right? White teen men dominate the consumption of that trash, that garbage, and they're among the highest participants in that activity. So it makes sense that Epstein would use underage situations for these people. Now, again, as I said before, black people are not shocked, and I don't think any black person is truly surprised by the level of debauchery and depravity and cannibalism, because that was mentioned in it too. That's crazy. They eating people there. That's crazy. You know what I'm saying? We're not shocked. None of this really surprises us. We've heard stories about this since slavery. We've heard them from our ancestors. There's a book called Black AF History. Have y'all heard that book, Black AF History? And I read it last fall, and it includes stories about young black men who was essayed by his white male masters, all sorts of stuff. There's a book out called Bullwhip Days. You hear stories and tales from black people telling about what life was like. And again, you got to understand, we've lived alongside these people for 400 years. We know them better than they know themselves. See, they don't teach white folks our history. They teach them the version of history that's comfortable for them to listen to. We, on the other hand, have to know white folks better than we know anybody else, because we got to live next to these people. We got to always be constantly checking that temperature. You see? So again, nothing Epstein, he's done is surprising. Nothing this man did or the people like him do is shocking. that appetite didn't disappear after slavery or Jim Crow. And as I said earlier, there's probably another Epstein out there somewhere right now. We hear about them in 15 to 20 years. But here, one of the few positive things, if you can call it that, is Epstein reportedly didn't like black people on his island, specifically black girls, to participate in those activities and rituals. And I think I can speak for most black people with common sense when I say we collectively rejoice at not being invited to the parties, of these sick, depraved people. And I'm glad white tea society in general rejects black people. I'm glad that they're repulsed by us, and I'm not sad about that. As I said, rejection is protection. I'm gonna say that again. Rejection is protection. Let's be thankful these white folks don't accept us. Let's be thankful we haven't fully mingled in with them over the last 400 plus years, because every time we do, they take the best from us and give us the worst of them. And we're taught to believe that being kept out of white spaces was always a bad thing, right? But in many times it's functioned as a barrier. It's a form of protection. And the only peace we truly have in this country comes from the fact that white tea people don't want to live around us. Every time we move in, they move out. And because they move out, our children and families are not exposed to that level of depravity. And again, I want to take the moment to acknowledge the victims of these horrible crimes. And I hope that they find peace. And I also hope that they begin to take leadership more seriously, because when we elect people without character, they don't lead us to progress, they lead us to destruction. Now, all you other folk out there, all you white people, this is I'm not blaming all of y'all, but clearly y'all have a problem. Y'all quick to tell us about our gang problem. Now I'm gonna tell y'all about y'all depravity problem. Okay, you always quick to talk about Chicago. What about Epstein Island? Okay, that's what I need you to understand. Now, let me explain to you why this is not something new to us. Okay, I want to explain to you why this is not new to us, and I have some more videos I would like to share with you all. Y'all just kick back and enjoy these videos, and we're going to talk about it. We are not shocked by what we see going on right now. Hit the number 1 button. Okay. You guys ever heard of the Rolling Stones? Have you heard of the Rolling Stones? Well, they got a song out I want y'all to listen to. But first of all, we're going to let these folks talk. Hit the number 1 fair use.
Trigger warning. This is about a sexual violation of Black, brown, indigenous, and other women of color during colonialism and imperialism. Okay, let's start. The patriarchal family was a central building block of European empires and colonies. Men attempted to control their subordinates in the family. This authority was often enacted through violence. The violence of the colonial household extended outward, since it was a main method of colonial control and power. Indigenous and African descended women who worked for these families were especially vulnerable to violation. European colonizers used violations to instill fear and reproduce the.
Yeah, she's saying violations. Y'all know what she means, right? Somebody type violations in the chat.
Workforce. History is full of horrific stories of sexual violence as a method of colonial control, including Michel de Cuneo, who was an Italian nobleman who sailed with Christopher Columbus. He wrote the following in a letter dated October 28th, 1495.
They've been violating since 1495. You hear me? That's what this. Do you think we're surprised? Do they already know they have a problem? I mean, let's just be. If I have some white people in here, you all know you have a problem. Look at the FBI stats. Look at your history. You don't think you have a problem. You always want to say slavery is just about labor and picking cotton and tobacco. No, it was a lot worse than that. Okay, it was more than just work. Okay, there was a lot of immorality going on with my so-called Christian brethren. That's what you need to understand. It wasn't very Christian. Okay, period.
While I was in the boat, I
just want y'all to keep in mind this is the history that they don't want little white kids to know because it make them feel bad. Somebody type feelings in the chat room. And see, the only thing you doing by banning history, black history, is you're gonna present an opportunity for people like me to teach the history. Because whatever you try to take from people, it basically becomes a hot commodity. That's why banning alcohol and the prohibition of alcohol make alcohol become so expensive. They're gonna come over here. They gonna, boy, you think they're getting that good, that primo caddy not stepped on over here. That's why they're coming over here for the history, because you tell them they can't have it. And I'm gonna put it together for them. Let's keep listening.
captured a very beautiful Carib woman,
Mhm.
whom the said Lord Admiral gave to me, and with whom, having taken her into my cabin, she being naked according to their custom, I conceived desire to take pleasure. I wanted to put my desire into execution, but she did not want it and treated me with her fingernails.
So basically, what this saying, the minute Christopher Columbus and his homies got over there to the Dominican Republic, which was at that time occupied by, it was called Iscaya, and it was occupied by the Taino people, who are the Native Americans who sailed there from the Yucatan Peninsula. The first thing he did was drag a woman back to his little boat and put her in his little cabin on the boat. Okay, and she was already, people didn't wear a lot of clothes, it's a hot island. And what he proceeded to do was try to have his way with her. And what she did was dig her nails into the back of him. Okay, let her know it ain't gonna go down like that. Let's keep listening to this.
In such a manner that I wished I had never begun. But seeing that, to tell you the end of it all, I took a rope and thrashed her well, for which she raised such unheard of screams.
So because she wouldn't give it up, he couldn't take it that way. He decided to get basically a whip or a bull whip, a rope, and beat, assault this woman, okay, with this rope. This is Christopher Columbus. They've been doing this. Is the first thing they did when they got here, was start acting depraved and uncivilized. You understand what I'm saying? They brought civilization to the rest of the world. They brought syphilisation to the rest of the world. That's what they did. Syphilisation, smallpox, in the clap, in the green. Okay, they brought all that.
That you would have not believed your ears. Finally, we came to an agreement in such a manner that I can tell you that she seemed to have been brought up in a school of harlots.
You see what I'm saying? So all of this is in his mind. You fought this woman, fought you, you beat her until this indigenous woman, and now, she's nothing else you can do. You see what I mean? And now you say, oh, now she wanted it. She grew up and she was in a house of harlots. Oh, she wanted it. Now she was all over. After you did all that, nah, that ain't what happened. You see what I mean? You're just making it up. You just make it up. These people have always tried to justify their depravity and so on and so forth and hide it and act like these high and mighty civilized people. Look, I want the white supremacists to come over here. I want you white nationalists to come over here. I want you to come here. See, I'm going to give you what you need over here. You're going to get what you need with Uncle D. See, I'm not like the motherfucker. I ain't scared of it. I'm going to give you this word. I'm going to give you this truth. I'm going to hit you with these facts, and then you can deal with it. Because you all have some ill. You quick to tell us about gang violence and all the stuff that we do that's not good for our culture. Well, this is part of your culture. It has been. You've been doing this for years. This is what you do. Taking things you don't belong, people this is the civilization you brought. All right, let's let the sister finish.
Give me a minute.
Okay, come on.
Men like Cuneo saw the indigenous women much like they saw the land upon which these women lived. Both were resources to be conquered and dominated. Indeed, European invaders believed that claiming indigenous women's bodies was part and parcel of claiming the land itself. This sense of white male entitlement to indigenous women's bodies has been central to colonization, from the 1400s through to today, as legal scholar Sarah Deer, Muskogee Creek Nation, has documented.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm saying,
Currently,
again, were any of you black people surprised or shocked by the Jeffrey Epstein file?
Native women experience the highest per capita rates of violation in the nation.
Okay, here's the next one.
Songs that glorify sexual assault on children, and there's
Somebody type Mick Jagger in the chat room. Somebody type Rolling Stone. Have y'all heard of the Rolling Stones? They have a song called Brown Sugar, and this sister's going to explain to you what Brown Sugar, the lyrics. She's going to read the lyrics out to you. I want y'all to listen very carefully. This song was written in, I believe, in the 70s.
so fucking many. But I'm going to get into the one that was written by the Rolling Stones in 1971 called Brown Sugar. This shit is extremely disturbing. So
listen, Mick Jagger, you know, Mick Jagger with big lips. Keep listening, right?
this is where a white man is glorifying the sexual assault of enslaved black girls. I can't even believe that this made it to the airwaves. I'm so fucking pissed about this shit. Like, I'm so fucking disgusted. But let's read.
This is not some off-brand grunge band in Seattle somewhere. This is the Rolling Stones. This is a song they've been pumping for 50 years. Okay, since the 70s. All right, this is a song they've been singing for 50 years, and it's popular. I want you to listen to it. Listen to it.
The lyrics, so you can be disgusted too. Gold Coast slave ship bound for cotton fields, sold in a market down in New Orleans. Scared old slaver knows he's doing all right. Hear him whip the women just around midnight.
Yeah, whip the women. Who is he talking about? Gold Coast slave ship. He talking about. I mean, are y'all listening to this? This is the Rolling Stones. You go to a Rolling Stones concert, you go hear this song. Shout out to official Zay Store. You understand what I'm saying? Listen.
Realizing violence against black women. That's awesome. Oh God, I can't with these lyrics. Brown sugar. How come you taste so good? Brown sugar, just like a young girl should.
Mm.
Did you hear that shit? White male entitlement, like entitled to sexually assault enslaved.
He's singing about it. Mick Jagger is singing about it on the Rolling Stone. You see what I'm saying? He talking about a slave ship. See what I mean? He talking about a slave ship. You understand what I'm saying? From the Gold Coast. That's what we talking about.
Black girls, which is
sold at the auction block in New York.
Is exactly what Thomas Jefferson did, and so many palm-colored men, which is why this is part of our culture, is because it's always been a part of their culture. And when enslaved,
it's part of their culture. It's part of your culture is your program. Your culture is how your people operate. I talked to you all about the culture the other day. And I explained to you all about culture. I gave y'all a breakdown about culture. This is culture. This is the culture. Okay, let's keep listening.
enslavement ended, their desire, their perversion did not. They didn't get any mental health help. They still have the sense of entitlement. Trump's talking about grabbing by the pussy. So anyway, let's drums beating.
The whole point of me having this broadcast is to explain to everybody why black people are not shocked by the Jeffrey Epstein files. We are not shocked, and the truth is, white people are not shocked either. Y'all know yourselves. That's like me telling you, oh man, 3 people got shot in Chicago last week. Would that shock any of you black people? If I told you 3 people that got shot in Chicago last week? No, it wouldn't. That's been a problem. Okay? That's been a problem for a long time. And white folk know they got this problem. And black folk know they got this problem. The only people that seem not to understand, this is their problem. Let's keep listening.
Old English blood runs hot. Lady of the house wondering when it's going to stop, where it's going to.
Lady of the house, old English blood running hot. Lady of the house wondering when it's going to stop. Listen to that again.
So anyway, let's drums beating. Old English blood runs hot. Lady of the house wondering when it's going to stop, where it's going to stop. Houseboy knows that he's doing all right. You should hear him just around midnight.
Houseboy, you hear them lyrics? You hear what he's saying? Lady of the house. Who's that? That's Sam. That's Becky. That's Karen. Lady, how far this is gonna go? Houseboy know he's doing all right. You should hear him howling in the midnight. Is that what he's saying? Houseboys. I remember I told y'all earlier about the house slaves. They wasn't having a good life up in there. They might not have had to pick cotton, but they had to pick something. Now they might not talk about all the stuff because black people didn't talk about things like that back in the day. They don't. Who wants to talk about that? And boys don't get pregnant. You understand what I'm saying? So there's really no evidence unless somebody tells you about it. You understand what I'm saying, family? So the next time y'all come out with the house, well, no, that wasn't a good place to be. That's why they wanted them soft and small and tiny and frail. You kept them close in the house. Let them sleep on the floor at the foot of their beds. There's a story about a white woman. She had the woman sleeping right outside her door for years. A grown woman sleeping on a pallet outside your door. So you can holler at her in the middle of the night. She had to go downstairs and go wherever to get what you need. You understand what I'm saying? So the whole institution of slavery was bad. It was no better place, in the house, out the house. None of that was good. None of it was good. None of us had a bit. It's like saying I got a cooler place in the fire. No, it's all hot. Let's let the lady.
And the lyrics again, which I'm not going to read. Got me feeling now. Brown sugar just like a black girl should, yeah. Now I bet your mama was a tent show queen and all her boyfriends were sweet 16. Oh, God.
A tent show queen, if I recall, they would literally erect, like, a strip club, a mobile strip club. They put a tent up around and they'd have the women in there performing and whatnot, like a carnival or something like that. And they'd be in there showing off her stuff. So she's a tent show queen. And that's what they would do, they do. You understand? That's what they would do. So in other words, your mama they try to over-sexualize black women. Oh, well, your mama was, get it from your mama, basically. So it's okay to do you like this because this is what you born to do. You understand?
I'm no schoolboy, but I know what I like. You should hear me just around midnight. And then he repeats those nasty ass fucking lyrics again. And then he just says it again and again. So, okay. So when this came out in 1971, black folks had real problems as far as
1971. This is what it came about. 50 years they've been talking. 53 years. This has been dealing with this. Okay? All right? This is culture.
I mean, this isn't fucking disgusting, but being beaten in the street, segregation, etc. Fighting for civil rights. We had civil rights by then, but still just fighting for fucking, our lives.
Family friendly.
So protesting lyrics was not on the forefront of what people were paying attention to. But later on, the song got a lot of criticism. And this will come to no surprise as black women. It was black women who were speaking out against this song and saying that this is fucking disgusting, fetishizing black women, abusing black women, not even black women, black girls, this whole thing. The white supremacy of it, the sexism of it. And again, black women experience a specific type of sexism. It's racial and it's fucking sexist. It's just so disgusting that this man is openly talking about sexually assaulting enslaved black girls and everybody was just dancing along to it thinking it was great. Anyway.
Everybody wasn't dancing along to it. I've yet to ever hear a Rolling Stone album, baby. That's not what I listen to. If I'm gonna listen to something from the 1970s, it's gonna be from Motown or it's gonna be James Brown or something like that. I don't listen to that stuff. And even back here, we would listen to Mick Jagger. Okay? So
as far as the protests, black women, some black men spoke up, but most of them didn't. And
baby, it ain't in our purview. Okay, it's not something we even deal with. Okay, go ahead.
Then there were some black men who were saying, I can still enjoy the music, even though I don't like the lyrics. But there was no, when we needed black men to show up for us and to speak on our behalf, they didn't. And
Mick Jagger wrote the song. Mick Jagger wrote the song in the 70s. Black men don't have anything to do with that man. That's nasty. This is their culture. How would you? This is their culture. We don't have anything to do with that, baby. You can't just shit blame Mick Jagger. You can't blame black men for that.
This is my issue. This is what I talk about in the black community is that black women lay down their fucking lives fighting for black men and always have. But
and black men lay down their lives for black women too. We gonna have to let you. We gonna have to put you. We ain't doing the gender war. Okay, we're not gonna do the gender war. Okay, we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna shift blame. Cause see, let me tell you something. This is why I'm glad Jeffrey Epstein didn't like black women on his island. Because had he liked black women on his island, I'm absolutely sure there was a lot. There's a small contingent of women that would see black men don't protect black women. And now this ain't our fight. This is their thing. This is their problem. This is what they did. This has nothing to do with us at all. This is white folk doing what white folk been doing for a very long time. Let's move on to the next section.
Told me that in their country they were so against homosexuality because it was used as a form of punishment. Right? So they would take these young slave men, because Jamaica was, I think, slave breaking, slave training. Did you know that?
Yeah, it was a season. What they would do is, family, they would bring the African slaves from Africa. They bring them to the Caribbean. Okay. And once they got them to the Caribbean, they call those seasoning farms. Very rarely did they ever just bring slaves directly from Africa to the United States. All right, because the trade winds would bring you down to the Caribbean or Brazil. And that's why you have such a large population of Brazilians who are of African descent. But bottom line is, they would bring them down to those farms and they would break them. You can't bring a slave fresh off Africa. This man is a warrior. He ain't doing it. You see what I mean? You can't. It'd be riots going on, and they already had that. So they had to break them first. This is what this lady is talking about. Y'all hit the number one, but let's keep pushing.
It was,
you said it was buck breaking.
Buck breaking, that's what they call it, but it was slave training there. So they would take the slaves and they would train them how to be better slaves.
Now see, there's something very peculiar about this idea that they only use that against black men, that they were buck breaking. Okay? I want you to, it's very insidious, and I'm going to talk about that in detail when we get a little deeper into our lesson. Buck breaking, they always say, oh, it was buck breaking. Yeah, it was a disciplinary matter. But it was more than that, and that wasn't the only time they utilized that. So they try to say that to make it a reason. It was just a discipline matter. Okay? But let's keep listening.
And then the most docile slaves would go to America. A way to break the buck or the black male slave was to tie him up, right?
Well, actually, the truth is, we began to breed black people in the United States. That's what you need to understand. People always misunderstand and assume that all the Africans that ended up in the United States came directly from the continent of Africa. No, there was Africans and there were people who were bred. Did y'all hear what I told you was going on earlier in the 17th century? Did I tell you what all those white men that had a bunch of little biracial mulatto children running around? If they didn't have a buck to breed you, they'd breed you themselves and put you right up there for slavery. This is what you all need to understand. Because remember, back at that time, everybody belonged to the property of the husband. His own white children were his property. His woman was his property. So, this is their perception. Okay, that's the whole term paterfamilias. Okay, patriarch. Okay, paterfamilias. It's a Roman word. Okay, that's where that comes from. So all of this was his problem. Man could sell his daughter, sell his property. The woman married another man. She took that man's last name, denoting that was the problem. The woman took the husband's last name. The slaves took the husband's last name. The children took the husband's last name. What does that tell you? Property. Okay? You put your brand on your cow, that's your last name. breeding farms is what a lot of black people can't conceptualize. They literally turned breeding into an industry. It's too expensive to bring slaves all from Africa. That's too much. I can pop one in this chick right here and get pop 5 more in that one over there and give me a black buck to breed them out. It's cheaper just to breed them up right here instead of going through the problem of trying to break a person who's used to freedom into slavery. I just get some that's born into slavery. And they did that. We went from 400,000 in 18, I think the last census was 1807 to 4 million by 1860 because of the breeding farms in Virginia, Baltimore, North Carolina, South Carolina. All right, breeding farms.
Right? And rape him in front of his family.
Yeah.
So he would lose respect, one, from the woman of the family, but also the children. It was like a instant, hey, he cannot protect you.
Right. Yeah.
You have no protection. What can that do?
Yeah, that
to you men?
I mean, it didn't work though because you had 200 uprisings in the 240 some years that we were enslaved, so it didn't work. All right, that's what you need to understand. And here's the other thing: it wasn't black women weren't waiting around for black men to free them; they were freeing themselves. Okay, that's what you need to understand. They were freeing themselves. They were unaliving the masses. They were unaliving whole families. You understand what I'm saying? So, again, this is why Epstein didn't want you black women on his island. Okay, he didn't want you there. He didn't want you there, and that's a good thing. Let's keep listening.
Yes,
both
they
sides.
talk about it being in our DNA.
Your
We can actually
DNA.
pass on
that trauma.
that trauma
in your blood.
in our blood.
Yeah, so let's keep on listening. Are we learning something? Let's keep learning. We ain't really got deep. We haven't dug that deep into where I need to go. But we getting there. Y'all hit the number 1 button. Let's keep it pushing. All right.
Another thing that I thought was absolutely insane too was the denial of just the atrocities that have occurred here in the United States. And I even made like a little list of documentation because people are terrible at literature, which I'm not going to blame y'all specifically. I'm going to blame our education system because why would they want you to know what they actually did? But then you'd be aware of what to look out for when it occurs again. Sexual assault on black enslaved males. Sexual assault on black enslaved males. Trigger warning, okay? There are lots of documentations that speak about this. I mean, a lot. Now, the thing is, most people automatically want to look for that R word, but let's think. We are in a Christian nationalist nation where homosexuality already was not something that people like to speak about. I mean, let's look at Bear Rustin. He was the one who organized the March on Washington. And you know why you probably didn't hear about him? He was a gay man. Yeah. So let's talk about some examples, and I encourage y'all to look at these examples yourself, right? So we have Foster, Foster's the last name, by the way. The sexual abuse of black men under American slavery. Why didn't you hear of this? Gays have never been accepted. The Alphabet Mafia has never been accepted and still is not. In fact, they are another marginalized group. Never accepted. Homosexual behavior was not directly spoken of. So we have Charles Clifton rereading Voices from the Past, Images of Homoerotic and the Slave Sexuality. Just check these out. The Interesting Narratives of the Life of Ulala Equiano, if I'm correct. Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl, and that's by Harriet Ann Jacobs. Now you're probably like, that's a woman. You're absolutely correct. But she also...
I'm checking the microphone right now. Let me see. I'm checking the microphone right now. To see if you guys can hear me. Microphone check. Mike. I'm checking the microphone. Yeah, it is a little seems like it's some background noise or something like that. It's like I'm in a subway. So it sounds like I'm in the subway. Sound like I'm in the subway, man. But anyway, let's get it. Y'all can hear me. We're gonna keep it pushing. All right.
Also mentions a story of an enslaved male that she knows who was sexually assaulted, and that he had to basically walk around and, in just a shirt. That way he was openly ready. Yeah.
Well, again, what she's describing is, what's in actual documented books and slave narratives, and I'm gonna go a little bit deeper into that. You know, you guys hit the number one button if you can hear me clearly. I'll keep working on the sound, but it's only so much I can do, baby. It's the internet. All right, let's hit the number one button and keep it pushing.
Yeah, crazy, right? 1855, Life and Times of Frederick Douglass. He speaks of his own experiences. His own experiences. The North Star in 1847, Frederick Douglass published a letter to his former master speaking of the multiple assaults he experienced. Toni Morrison's Beloved. AA Family in 1860. This is a novel about an African-American family in 1860, and it was to speak on the reality of the brutality of slavery. And yes, there is a scene that opens up in a very heavy sexual nature. Woodward, The Delectable Negro, which someone recommended me this. I'm not complete with it. Read it. You need to be able to read between the lines. And if you're not if you're not skilled in literacy, as I just was a prime example of, you got to be able to. You have to. Because if I were to say these things out in the open, you'd probably be like, yo, what are you doing? Like, the white slave masters were like, yeah, I just had homosexual relations with one of my enslaved individuals, which they saw as animals. Other people might be like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah, keep that in mind. They equated us to beasts of burden. So literally in their psychological development, they were, you know, doing a hanky-panky with animals. But yet they did it anyway, and it was common. So what does that tell you about the psyche of these folks? Again, and the whole point of me doing this is I'm driving the point home that Black Americans are not surprised by the Epstein files. Okay, a quick cursory search of Black history will let you know that this was common. We recognize the debauchery. This is what they did. Okay, and it was just something that was understood. Let's keep listening. Hit the number one button if you can hear me clearly.
Parts of Black women's experience in slavery was the pervasive sexual violence and harassment that they were subjected to. Harriet Jacobs provides a detailed account of the sexual violence that shaped the everyday lives of Black women in her 1861 autobiography, Incidents of the Life of a Slave Girl, which she originally published under the pseudonym Linda Brent in order to protect herself. She writes, "My master met me at every turn, reminding me that I belonged to him, and swearing by heaven and earth that he would compel me to submit to him. If I went out for a breath of fresh air."
What she's doing is she's explaining to you that when she was 14 years old, she got married off to this old doctor who was like 60. And he wouldn't give her, she couldn't breathe. Okay, shout out to the firefighter. She couldn't, everywhere she turned. She was washing the dishes, he was on. Tending the fire, he was on. Okay. She went to go see her mother's grave site when he jumped on her down there. Everywhere. This 60-year-old man on this 14-year-old man. Okay? And there's nothing she could say about it. No laws was being broken. Nothing she could do. And I want you to think about this. And this man had a wife. Okay? It's in the book.
After a day of unwearied toil, his footsteps dogged me. If I knelt by my mother's grave, his dark shadow fell on me even there. The light heart, which nature had given me, became heavy with sad forebodings. The sexual violence that Black women experienced took on many different forms. There was even a practice called the fancy trade, designed specifically.
The fancy trade was basically that was a trade in mulatto girls. Okay, and not just mulatto girls, but all women. They look good. Okay, they call that the fancy trade, and they were used purely for trafficking. So when they say all we were doing was picking cotton, say nah, that wasn't all what we were doing, because that wasn't all you were doing. All right, let's keep listening.
For the sale of mixed-race women for sexual concubinage and prostitution. In 1937, a formerly enslaved man, W.L. Bost, explains some of these dynamics to an interviewer for the Federal Writers Project, a New Deal era initiative which recorded the oral testimonies of over 2,300 formerly enslaved people in the late 1930s. As we mentioned before, Black testimonies were often filtered through white perspectives. So when published, these conversations in the Federal Writers Project were often written with a heavy dialect attributed to the black interviewees. Bost is reported as having said, "Plenty of the colored women have children by the white men. She know better than to not do what he say. They take them very same children."
She know better than to not do what he say. There's nothing good is gonna happen with that. Y'all hit the like button, man.
Would have their own blood and make slaves out of them. While the use of sexual agency is discussed by many historians and writers as a viable form of resistance, it's important that we not misconstrue it for consent. The writer and scholar Celia Hartman urges us to redefine rape and sexual assault within the context of slavery. Women who were legally defined as property were never in a position to provide consent, when in so many ways, their bodies and their choices did not belong to them in the first place. With that in mind, relationships with an enslaver, to the extent that any such association can be called a relationship given the power dynamics in place, could provide some women certain types of protection and some small privileges that other enslaved people did not receive. And that could take on many forms. It could mean not having to work in the field. It could mean having slightly better food for one's family. It could also mean keeping one's children safe from harm or from being sold away. Black women were presented with a series of impossible choices, and each one decided for
Are y'all listening to it? Are y'all listening to it?
themselves how to navigate it. Slavery was an all-encompassing, oppressive institution, and enslaved life and labor were difficult regardless of someone's sex. But it did not.
And now I want you just to keep in mind, again, as I said earlier, it's 2 points I'm trying to prove. Number one, white folk already know who they are. They're not shocked by Epstein, number one. Number two, the reason that black people are not shocked or surprised by Epstein, because this is their hit. We've been living next to these folks for 400 years. So where is the surprise? There is no surprise. Okay? And again, all they're doing is trying to keep in mind, they don't want to talk about this real history. Because see, this real history hurts their feelings. This is about white folks' feelings. Okay, that's why they don't want to teach. That's why they don't want to hear, what do they call it, woke?
In this country was his practice, but we're going to be talking about it in America. But this is going to be a very hard topic. It's going to be involving the rape of black enslaved men in this country, and not just in this country was his practice, but we're going to be talking about it in America. Now, the first issue that this stigma raises is the fact that a lot of people will listen to what I'm about to say without doing any research and say, oh, no, that's wrong. You're just trying to paint a certain picture or a certain narrative because they hadn't heard it as much. And I agree to that last part. This topic is not covered nearly enough. The second issue that this stigma creates surrounding this topic is the fact that during the time of the formerly enslaved finally telling their story during what we know as the Harlem Renaissance and the time before and after, it was hard for our people to even to relay these messages. You know how
nobody wants to talk about that. You know, you got dudes in prison right now. We know what's going on in there. Nobody wants to talk about that, right?
how hard it would be as a man who had his pride and dignity and ego, everything stripped from him, to be raped and then have to turn around and explain this to a probably white recorder, right? And explain to him that, yeah, this guy did this to me. That's hard to do. The reason for the emphasis on the white recorder is because during this time, the only people that had the gall to even document these things, what was happening on the plantation, were the white people, the abolitionists. Not to mention, we didn't have the vocabulary needed to even explain what happened to us. A lot of times it was just punishment. It was a harsh punishment. It was a harsh punishment. These are things that you just simply want to forget. You don't want to remember. That is the reason why we don't have a lot of firsthand accounts explaining these things. And if you do find them, they're very, very, very vague. Side note, I do have a nonprofit called the Black Party Foundation. We'll be speaking at Juneteenth on June 4th. Frederick Douglas's The Life and Times of Frederick Douglass. That's a book written by him. Now, in this book, he is coming from the perspective of a woman, but he goes through a time where the woman in the story gets brought to the middle of the woods. She gets stripped and she gets raped by numerous white men. Now, as horrific as it is, it's put in the woman's perspective. It's put in a woman's perspective for a reason. Now, a lot of people will read it and they'll just say, oh, no, well, he's just telling the story of someone else. The book is literally called The Life and Times of Frederick Douglass. How would he know what happened to this girl in the woods if it was just her and 4 other enslavers?
Have y'all heard any of this Black history before? Because it seems like all we ever talk about is Martin Luther King and Harriet Tubman. Is this the history that you all heard? It's Black History Month. Have y'all heard this yet? Has anybody heard this? Because it seems to me like the only history that we hear in school is about Harriet Tubman, Martin Luther King, and Booker T. Washington, and that's it. And Tuskegee, that's it. It's Tuskegee Institute. Okay, it's the #1 button of you.
That's not enough to convince you. He proceeds to go on and open up a newspaper, and if I'm not mistaken, I'm looking at my notes, the North Star, in which he puts out a story, he puts out something in the newspaper.
Y'all get the point of that. Let's push it. I want to push this thing through because I want to get you all out of here, but I want y'all to get all this work.
So imagine that you are a 14-year-old girl who has been kidnapped and enslaved, and you are being sold to a 40-year-old white man and forced to bear his children. And history, instead of recognizing you as a trafficked, enslaved, essayed, and raped child, instead calls you a mistress, or says that you're dating this individual.
Yeah. Because
this
they
is
want
the
to be able to infer that she consented or she wanted. Shout out to Faquan. Oh, she wanted, she's getting a little extra food and some more scraps. If you don't know about Sally Henry, she stayed in a little tiny room that was literally right next to, you know who, the founding father, or one of them. And she just stayed in it. It was like she was trapped. 14-year-old girl. All right, this was
story of Sally Hemings, who was a 14-year-old child that was raped repeatedly by Thomas Jefferson, who was a 40-year-old man. And our history is so whitewashed and fucking disgusting that instead of recognizing that she was a child who was repeatedly raped by this fucking man.
Watch your language. I know it's a serious subject, but watch your language.
She's called his mistress. She's saying that they were saying that she was dating him, as though an enslaved, human trafficked child has the power to say no to one of the most powerful white men in the country.
Right. That's my point. That's my point. Let's keep it pushing because we want to go ahead and get the rest of this thing here. Y'all hit the #1 button if you can hear me clearly. Hit the #1 button when the video comes up. I want to make sure you hear it.
First trigger warning. This is about a sexual violation of Black, brown, indigenous, and other women of color during.
I got that one already. Y'all hit the #1 button. All right, next up.
So no, there's a difference between being a product of your time and being an evil person who sexually assaults people to make them inferior, and then traumatize their children and their wives to make sure that they know what would happen if they try to escape or try to get their freedom. It was beyond being homophobic because of the time. They literally justified men enslavers sexually assaulting men enslaved Africans in front of their wives and children, and said that homophobia is okay because God doesn't want you to lie down with other men. But apparently they made it okay for men to sexually assault men to ensure that they will always be mentally traumatized from the sexual assault so they won't run away. There's a big difference.
Now, is it starting to make sense why Black people are running away? Because, see, here's the thing. If you really sit and listen to some of these arguments of some of these people, they will have you believe that, black people ran away from slavery because they were too lazy and they didn't want to work. They had a nice place to live right there on the plantation. They had plenty of food, plenty of exercise in the form of picking cotton, shoeing horses, chopping wood, farming, all sorts of stuff. Absolutely no reason why these men should want to run away. Okay? These men and women. All right? And then you start hearing the real story of what was really the depravity that was going on. Okay? And so this nice, clean notebook that modern people are trying to paint slavery to be was just a flat out lie. You understand what I'm saying? And you can't let these people hide it from you because they haven't changed. That's the thing you need to understand. It's the same culture. Okay? They have not become acculturated. It's the same culture. That's why the whole Jeffrey Epstein thing is something that they're not dealing with. You understand? Something they're not dealing with. Let's listen to this.
Harriet Jacobs was born in 1813 and endured years of SA violence from her enslaver, Dr. Norcom, who fathered 11 enslaved children. When he threatened to sell her children,
These people's descendants are still alive. They know what their great-great-granddaddies did. They know what their great-great-granddaddies, and white people know what they did. That's the other thing I want to deal with. White people know exactly what they did, and the only people that pretend that all this pretending like they don't know Epstein, who he was, it's just false, man. It's just false.
I'm not going to read this out loud because I don't want to get censored on TikTok, but I just want my white friends to kind of sit with this for a minute and hear what this is saying.
It's saying, yes, this is how the slave masters used to justify blank young black girls. They said they were promiscuous and more developed than their white counterparts. That was the excuse they used. Okay, this was the excuse that these people know the people.
Teaching
right?
white Americans how white slave owners raped, beat, humiliated, mutilated, murdered, and cannibalized their slaves. Accurate history is teaching that George Washington's false teeth were made out of his slaves' teeth.
Mm-hmm.
Accurate history is teaching that Abraham Lincoln may have said some words and signed some shit, but he did not physically do anything to free the slaves. The white abolitionists also often get almost total credit for freeing the slaves. I bet you've never even asked yourself what the slaves were doing to free themselves, and the answer to that is most of the fucking work,
he was raising hell.
including giving the ultimatum of war. But
you got a big forehead, though. Okay, and I appreciate her words, but his forehead is distracting me. That's a very, very odd shaped forehead.
And we get a bunch of white people mad that their kids might feel guilty if we teach real history. It's not about your white child's feelings. Teaching
white feelings. That's why they don't want to teach real history. White feelings.
accurate history isn't about white people's feelings. But that does sound like something that someone who's only ever been taught a white glorifying version of history would counter with. Ask why we ever felt like we needed to curate a false version of what white people did and did not do to black people to begin with. And then ask yourself why white-ass politicians are verbally attacking real history by calling it slurs, which is, by default, also the act of calling black people slurs.
Hey guys, my name is Chantal. I am the owner of Chantal.
Thank you so much, Chantal. I appreciate you bringing that to let you get to the advertisement. We are going to get one more video in this spell. Y'all hit the number one.
They cannot give consent because they are embedded in a power relationship because of their status as chattel property. There's no consent there. They're not people. They can only be used, and in this case, abused. So any discussion about consensual relationships, any discussion about potentially romantic liaisons are A, ridiculous, and B, beside the point. We know then if we take the genetics and then we add in the genealogy and then we add in the history and all of the personal narratives, all of the anecdotes, all the first person sources, we can build a picture of what's going on in the 18th century. And we can add in primary sources from other kinds of folks, mainly from Europeans visiting places like Virginia, who see and remark upon these relationships, remark upon the product of these relationships, because it is something that they are not seeing back home. For example, there is a fellow named Thomas Grotkin who was a professor at the College of William and Mary. He was English, was in Virginia in the 1770s, wrote an unpublished, what we call a choreography, sort of a snapshot of Virginia at that time, and he remarks on this every place that he goes, where you see the product of these relationships.
Every place that you go, you see a bunch of biracial children. That's what he's saying. And we're not doing this back home in England. There's this professor who's visiting Virginia in the 1770s, who's teaching over at William Mary College, and saying there are so many biracial children here. It is amazing, but it's so many that the white folk there don't even notice. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. If you want to talk about multiracial society, that's what Virginia looked like in the 1770s.
And in this case, abused. So any discussion about consensual relationships, any discussion about potentially romantic liaisons are A, ridiculous, and B, beside the point. We know then if we take the genetics and then we add in the genealogy and then we add in the history and all
about white masters raping enslaved black women. But what about the mistresses, the respectable plantation wives who forced themselves on enslaved black men? In this episode, we're pulling back the curtain on the bizarre, shocking, and hidden intimate lives of white mistresses on the plantation. Life for these women was a twisted mix of privilege and bitterness. In the social hierarchy of the plantation, they were second only to their husbands. And with that power came control over the lives of the enslaved. They ordered the work, dealt out punishments, and sometimes took sadistic pleasure in using their authority to humiliate others. A female slave could be flogged for the smallest offense, a dropped plate, a look that was taken as disrespect. Others were punished by being forced to stand in the blistering southern sun for hours, skin burning.
Not just the white men who were in on it, the white women who were in on it too.
Body weakening with no...
Yeah, this is a cultural issue that they don't want to talk about. That's why we're not shocked about Jeffrey Epstein. We've been watching them for 400 years, and they know themselves, and they're not truly shocked. It's just really bad press.
Water, no mercy. Every part of plantation life was designed to strip away humanity, to crush the spirit. The former slave Harriet Jacobs, in her searing memoir Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl, described growing up in a world drenched in sexual danger and fear. A place where
That's the girl that hid out in the attic for 7 years to avoid her slave master.
Slave girls were stalked by the desires of white men and watched with suspicion and jealousy by white women. These mistresses were trapped in their own way, married off at 15 or 16, expected to be dutiful, smiling, obedient wives, but their cages were lined with gold. They might have been bound by social rules, but they were still powerful over the enslaved, and many of them knew exactly how to use that power. Their husbands' constant affairs with enslaved women produced children who were enslaved themselves, some of whom would one day be under the authority of the very mistresses who hated the sight of them. The humiliation festered into cruelty, and when the masters were away, sometimes for weeks or months, the loneliness and resentment turned into something darker. Some mistresses sought revenge, not on their husbands, but on the enslaved men and boys who had no power to refuse them. While far less common than the predatory acts of white masters, these relationships did happen, and when they did, they were almost always acts of coercion, a power play in which refusal wasn't an option. Captain Richard Hinton recorded cases of mistresses forcing enslaved men into sexual submission, and Harriet Jacobs hinted at the same in her testimony. These women understood the position they held, that they had over the enslaved the same total control their own fathers once had over them. That made it frighteningly easy for them to single out the most vulnerable, the most powerless, the most brutalized, and take what they wanted. In the public eye, they were the symbols of Christian virtue, the glue that held the household together, guardians of morality. But behind closed doors, some shattered every value they pretended to uphold. The plantation was a place where every human relationship, even the most intimate, was poisoned by the rot of slavery. And the white mistress, so often painted as a victim in popular memory, was sometimes one of its most calculating predators.
Boy, we got a lot to talk about tonight. Well, I think I've laid the foundation for why this is nothing new. Somebody type nothing new in the chat room. Somebody type nothing new in the chat room. This is nothing new to us. Okay? This is nothing new to us. Now, at some point in the near future, you're going to learn something. And I have one rule. If you learn something, I should earn something. If you don't learn anything, you don't owe me anything. But again, it's not that we are not empathetic. We are very compassionate and loving people. Okay? I'm talking about foundational Black American people. We're very compassionate and loving people. And but we're not surprised by this. Okay? All right? Again, as I said, slavery wasn't just forced labor. It was a system of great, and the proof is still living in our DNA. Modern genetic studies show that the average foundational Black American, that's you all, you got anywhere from 20 to 25% European DNA ancestry. And that didn't come from love or romance. It came from widespread sexual SA of enslaved Black women and girls by white men. And there was a major 2015 study published by the American Journal of Human Genetics that found that most of this European ancestry entered Black families about 6 generations ago, which places it squarely in the 1700s. This was the height of the American slavery system. Scientists can tell you, can tell not just when it happened, but how. Somebody type who did it, okay? Because the DNA shows a strong sex bias, meaning it was overwhelmingly came from white European men and Black African women. And that matters because Black women at the time were enslaved. They had no legal rights. They couldn't get consent. And consent is a legal concept, and enslaved people were considered people under the law. They were literally property, okay? And this wasn't rare. It was common. It was so common that visitors who came from Europe wrote about it. You know, they wrote about seeing large numbers of biracial children on the plantation. Can you imagine? You go to the plantation, this is a slave plantation. These look like a bunch of white people with tans around here. It was that bad. Okay, this is 1700s. See, they didn't start bringing the Africans over in droves, right? Really, they never brought Africans over in droves to this country. There was a lot of breeding farms going on after 1808. But before that, this country was very, very, very light-skinned. You understand what I'm saying? Due to those white European men. Okay? It happened so often that people inside the system didn't even comment on it anymore. It was just part of it's just part of life. And when you combine that with the genetics and the genealogy and the slave narratives and the historical records, the picture is clear. This behavior was normal in society. This freakness. These men were married. And so that's why when stories like Epstein come out today, Black people aren't shocked. We already live with that historical truth of what happens when society loses its moral limits and treats human beings, especially children, as property. Let's look at the study to change how researchers understand genetic ancestry of foundational Black Americans. There's a connection between European Americans and most importantly, when the connection began. Because see, this study is widely seen as the starting point for much of today's research. Again, it's a 2015 study from the American Journal of Human Genetics. It's available online. It's for free. You can go to the National Library of Medicine, which is part of the National Institute of Health. And the article is entitled, let me put this up for you guys. I want you to see the article. It's in the chat room. Okay, so you guys can have a reference. Uncle D is bringing receipts. All right, that's the article. The genetic ancestry of African American, Latinos, and European Americans across the United States. It is well researched, clearly written, and is based on strong scientific evidence, making it easy to understand while still being very reliable. And the findings of the study don't just support what has already been discussed. They make the case even stronger. Researchers found that FBA today have on average 73.2% African and 24% European ancestry. And that's it. That's the study. Okay? And in simple terms, 1/4 of the ancestry of Black Americans come from white folk from Europe. And the study is also, it shows that when this mixing of ancestry happened, they by studying the X chromosome, which passed down directly through the dad, okay, scientists can estimate, it goes from, it passed down differently in males and females, but scientists can estimate the timing of this genetic mixing. And their results show that most of the European and African ancestry mixing occurred 6 generations ago. And the X chromosome data shows a clear pattern. It reveals that this ancestry mostly came from white men messing around with Black women. And that's the conclusion. You can't fight about it. All right. And what 6 generations puts us back between in the 18th century, which is 1701 to 1799. And this is the time when slavery became fully established in British colonial America. We wasn't even a country yet. You know, slavery starts taking shape in 1600, but it got deeply rooted in 1700. You see? The 18th century wasn't just so-called age of reason. It was the age of messing around in the slave quarters. Slavery sat at the center of American life. It was bigger than dope. It was bigger than oil. It was bigger than Apple computers. It was bigger than everything. It was all consuming. That what it was like. Imagine everything being consumed by this. That was it. Everything was about that, slavery. And the industries that popped up around it. And the British colonial planters and their allies across the colonies were fully 100% stomped down, ready to keep it pushing. All hands on deck. It shaped the law, it shaped the economy. Most of the property law that we talk about today stems from slaves. Insurance law stems from slavery and the issues that popped up. Inheritance comes from slavery. These people didn't have nothing when they came over here. You understand me? It was white men and Black women. Now these men talk about they don't like Black, but they clearly you did at some point. They love messing around. We don't. Yes, you did. The evidence is pervasive. See, again, this didn't happen both ways. There's not equal, even though they say that, there's not equal or mutual relationships. The pattern is clear. It's one-sided. It's the vast majority of these freaky white men messing with these enslaved Black women. That's it. They didn't have any control. It was about power. And DNA proves it was widespread. It was pervasive. And when you put the genetics together, like I said, with the family history and the first person slave narratives, the picture is clear. The sexual exploitation wasn't an accident. It is what built the system of slavery. Do you understand what I'm trying to tell you? This is what built the system. Biracial breeding children. You understand me? Think about that. And my man says all my men are, all the men in one of my uncle's families have X chromosome come from a Nordic man from Iceland. It's crazy because they're all darker than, yeah. Your skin color don't have nothing to do with it. You understand? That's just crazy. You have an X chromosome from a white man and be black as midnight. That's not how genetics work. You understand? Now imagine if you're a European, you coming over here from Britain, checking on stuff. You coming over here to do some visiting and traveling around America, and you go to the plantation, and you like, damn, your slaves are your children? You got large numbers of mixed race children. These are your slaves, sir. These are clearly your children. That boy looks just like you. Can you imagine that? You're about to sell your daughters. Imagine how the Europeans looked at these American slaveholders. Like, this is disgusting. You're going to sell your daughters. You're going to sell your sons into slavery. Okay, it's one thing for them to be around here, right? It's another thing for you to sell. Imagine what these British people were thinking. They were so disgusted by slavery. That's part of the reason they sent the Ethiopian army over here, or the squadron of black men. They gave them guns. You understand what I mean? Keep in mind, there was a case that popped up in Great Britain that outlawed slavery. And the colonists knew, well, at some point, they're going to come over here with that. We need to go ahead and break ties. And y'all thought it was about the Tea Party. Somebody typed Tea Party. You think they gave a damn about the tea? It wasn't about the Tea Party. Taxation without representation. No, it was about, nah, y'all are not going to take our little king. We just came from under the king. We got our own little kingdoms over here, our own little plantations. We're not going to get this power up for you. Tea Party my butt. That's what this was about. There was a man named Thomas Galton. He was an English scholar. He was a professor at William and Mary. He lived in Virginia in the 1770s. He's the one who wrote that manuscript. And he just wrote profusely about all these little biracial kids around here. Damn, I thought it was black and the white. These are clearly your children, sir. This is not an accident. Where all these little biracial, these are white children with a tan. The man, Thomas Galton, he said the white men and the boys would routinely go on in the slave quarters and sexually exploit the black women. He wrote about it. I mean, that's been old school. That's 1770 porn, interracial porn he was talking about. Are you kidding me? That's why they couldn't publish it probably. He said it was strikingly outrageous. You understand? But he couldn't say that. That was the daily life. Them dudes waiting for that. All they were doing were having sex with black women. That's what it sounds like. The men and the boys. And this, we got genetic proof of it, so you can't lie about it. This is what you did, white man. White T-man, this is what you were doing. This is what you did. Okay? This is what you did. Most of you black folk got more rich white people blood in you than these poor white folk out here. That's what's crazy about it. You were directly related to the rich white folk that owned everything. Isn't that crazy? Because it was the rich white folk and their family members that was messing with your great grandmas. I got one myself. My great grandma Eliza. She had a baby by her owner. A couple of them. Straight back, 6th generation. I'm looking at it too. And see, the reason that history still downplayed, it has nothing to do with lack of proof. It has everything to do with comfort. See, they want to paint this perfect patriot myth, the influence of legacy groups like the colonial dames and the generations of historical sanitizing, and we're all designed to soften the truth of the founding era. So it could be celebrated without more reg. They were banging all of them. They were just having sex. This is what they did. You know how some dudes come home and play video games in front of the TV? These white boys came home and all they did was have sex with black women who were enslaved. That's what they did. That's how do you get all them kids? How many black Americans do we have here? I mean, foundational black Americans, I know it's 45 million black people, but it's about 38 million black people in the United States. How do all of us have a white granddaddy? How do all of us have at least one white granddaddy 6 generations back? Because that's what they were doing. That's what you need to understand. They've been freaks a long time. You hear you all calling us animals and you out there messing around with it. What does that say about you? Huh? What does that say about your mind? And see the silence back then, the silence. It wasn't denial, it was normalization. See, for white colonial society, this behavior didn't stand out. It was normal. It didn't register as a scandal. The president did it. All the governors did it. This is what they did. It was routine. This is what they did. It was baked into the culture. That was just how the world worked around here. So, I mean, as long as you weren't the one being violated, it was cool, I guess, right? And that's why some of the most honest descriptions come from outsiders. It comes from the European visitors who were over here visiting the colony, seeing what the hell was going on. And they saw clearly, this is not normal. These are your children and they are your slaves too. Crazy. They were shocked. And their written observations matter because they confirm what enslaved people had to deal with. And look, it's genetics. You can't run away from it. Now, I want to tell y'all the case about a young lady named Celia, and she was from Missouri in 1855. All right? A plantation owner bought a little black girl to use her as a concubine. And she got tired of his ass, assaulting her. Okay? He got her pregnant twice. He got tired of it, and she killed his ass. Beat him with a board while pregnant with the third baby. Y'all want to hear the story? Let me know. I'm going to tell you the story. This is a true story. It's a case. I'm going to give you a case citation. Y'all can check it out. So the story, it takes place in Callaway County, Missouri. Y'all didn't know slavery was that far north. Missouri was a slave state. Okay, Missouri is the most racist. Missouri and Alabama. Missouri is the Alabama of the Midwest. St. Louis, you know St. Louis? Yeah, Missouri. So in 1855, a man named Robert Newsom, about 60 years old, bought a slave, a black woman by the name of Celia. Okay, she was 14 years old. His wife had just passed away. He didn't want to get married again. Okay, right? And he was telling everybody, yeah, I want to go ahead and get her to cook. You know, cook and clean, help me out around the house. This is why she did. I'm going to get him to cook and clean. Right? But that wasn't the reason he bought Celia. Remember I was telling you about that fancy trade? Somebody typed fancy trade, and he went to the fancy trade. Yeah, I'm just using you to cook. I'm just using her to cook. Yes, I'll be using her to cook. Yeah, you know, my wife is past little, so I'm going to use her to cook. Okay, now he had 5 other slaves, all men. But he wanted little Cecilia to be his concubine. And Newsom began graping her immediately upon arrival. Let me try to explain something. You know how you got to get in them little carts with the horse, and you just bucking along with the horse and the wagon? Yeah, as soon as you get home, I'm going to have you make me some tea and crumpets. As soon as he got home, this is what the court case is. He ain't parked the wagon. He didn't take the luggage out the wagon. He didn't show nothing. As soon as he got home, he took her up and he started raping her immediately. You understand? Immediately. I mean, like, first 5 minutes, man. As soon as he jumped out the carriage, everybody move out the way. He raping her immediately. He ain't unpacked no clothes. He ain't taking nothing out the carriage. Immediately. And this lasted for 5.5 years. She was 14. I mean, she cooked and she cleaned at the plantation and she served his grown children. but she was seen as a sexual object for this old man. Right? His grown kids lived with him. So it's not like they didn't know. Her cabin was 50 feet away from his. He'll pop out that house, ease on over there. He'll be in there every night. Every night. And then the family looked around like it wasn't happening. They knew what was going on. They absolutely knew. And then guess what happened? 2 years after she arrived, she's 16, he about 62. White man got her pregnant. She's pregnant. Turned around, got pregnant again. Now she got 2 kids by this man. She's 16. Forced to give birth to these kids. They slaves too. And here's what happened. She had a baby, the second baby, and she started messing around with another dude on the plantation, somebody she liked, black dude. His name was George. And so all accounts, they was having a relationship. They liked each other. You know, they really was feeling each other. And then George was like, man, I can't keep messing with you and you messing with the master. All that's going to do is cause me problems. So you either going to have to figure out how you can leave him alone, or I can't mess with you no more. That could be my life on the line. This white man would kill you behind them black women. I mean, it had been 5 years at this point. So now she's 19. She had 2 kids, right? And of course, even though she's dealing with George, this old man, Newsom, Robert Newsom, he's still messing around with her. She gonna have no peace. And so George ended up testifying that he said, look, I told her, you know, I can't deal with this. Either you got to deal with him, leave me alone. I don't want to get involved with it. So she, you know, Celia made it up in her mind. She's like, I'm not going to lose George. I like George. And she told Robert Newsom, her white master, say, look, I'm not doing this anymore. This is what she testified. This is a case. This is real stuff. This ain't made up. It's not even a novel. This is real stuff. She you know, she was brave. That was very brave. You gonna tell this white man he can't have you no more? That's why he bought you? He said, whatever. I'll see you tonight. This is what the white man said. Yeah, whatever. I'll see you tonight. I'll be right down there. And and at that moment, he found out. Now, I want you to keep in mind, she was pregnant at the time. He's still trying to get her, and she's big and pregnant. She is big and pregnant, and he's still coming down to the slave quarter. Morning sickness, I don't give a darn. Big and swole up in front, I don't give a darn. He came down there again to have his way with her in that little cabin. Her kids was in the 2 kids that he fathered by, they in the cabin with him. Y'all listening to me? So he walked in the cabin, right? He walked in the cabin, and apparently she didn't know if it was George coming in or Robert. But once she saw it was Robert Newsom coming in, she said, look, she asked him nicely, okay? And she had already prepared for that. So she knew he might come through. So guess what she did? She went to the woods and she got her a nice uncultivated Louisville slug, a nice wood, nice piece of wood, a nice branch. And as soon as she came to that door, she took that branch and just whacked him upside his head. You understand? This is what she testified to. She had said she was having morning sickness already, and she begged him to leave me alone, and he wouldn't leave alone, so she whacked him upside his head, and he fell over. Okay? She wobbled it. Somebody typed wobbling. Somebody typed the fade. You understand? She wobbled his old butt, and she grabbed that stick, and she wobbled it. She popped him some more. You understand? And apparently he got up and said, don't come any close. She popped him again. You understand what I'm saying? This the kids watching. Her children are watching that she's been had by this man, and she whopping him. Boom, right upside his head. Boom, she big and pregnant. Boom, kids watch. Stay over there. Boom. Stay over there, Keisha. Boom. Jamal, step back. Boom. You understand what? She hit him so hard, knocked him out, and she kept hitting him. She kept hitting him while he was on the ground. She kept on hitting him. And later she testified that the devil got in me. The devil got in me. No, the devil was trying to get you, girl. The devil, you got the devil. You understand me? But you know, here's the thing. She had been dealing with abuse for 5.5 years. She snapped. She crushed the man's skull. And once he was dead, let me tell you what she did. She dragged his body to the fire. She kept the fire going all night. And guess what she did? She burnt his ass up. She burnt his ass up. Left nothing left but the ashes and the bones. And so the bigger bones, okay, she took the bigger bones and she crushed them up and she pushed them down through the floorboard, because you know people had floorboards that sat up next to each other. They had little gaps in them. So she out there in the slave quarters, and he coming out there messing with her, and you know we got gaps in the floor. She stuffed the bones down through the floor. She crushed them, put them through the floor. She stayed up all night. She was tired. Okay, so she finally laid down and she went to sleep. And she woke up right before noon, and she was keeping an eye on the house, because remember the kids of his know that he come down there and he ain't come back. They're probably looking for Robert Newsom with his old self, and he then went on to the fire. Okay, and she realized, hey, there's too much ash in the fireplace, and it didn't look normal. Okay, so it looked suspicious. Okay, she's like, how do I got to burn the body up? And so what she had to think fast. So what she did, a little 12-year-old grandson, Newsom's 12-year-old grandson came by. Remember, she's about 19, he's 12, he probably like her too. He came, his name was Coffee, a little white boy named Coffee. He lived on the plantation too. And she said, look, Coffee, I want you to clean the fireplace out for me. If you clean the fireplace, I'll give you 24 walnuts. Go clean the fireplace out, I'm gonna give you 24 walnuts. And you know, Coffee like, hell yeah, I'm gonna do that. Little white boy, of course, no problem. Little Missouri boy, yeah, sure, I'll clean the walnuts out. You know my granddad is. No, I don't know where he is. He'll be back soon. So, you know, little Coffee went in there, he cleaned out the fireplace, did a good job. You know what I'm saying? Scooped all the ashes out. And you know, he's like, I don't need to walk anywhere. He just scattered them out on the path as he was walking up to the stable. Just scattered them around, you know, just scattered the ashes. Granddaddy just scattered all on the path over there by the hogs and the pigs. You see what I'm saying? Where it belonged. And, you know, after Robert was gone, after Newsom was gone, old man was gone for 12 hours, his grown kids finally said they went in there looking for Celia. And the first place they said, where is he? How you know he here? I thought y'all didn't think he was coming down here. When every time I asked y'all if y'all could talk to your daddy, he said, we didn't even know he was coming down there. And so all of a sudden now, you coming down here looking for me. You see what I'm saying? And she acted like nothing was happening. You know, why were you here in my cabin in the first place? But here's the thing, they wore her down. She's pregnant, she's tired. So after hours and hours and hours, she said, you know what, I did kill his ass. I killed him. I sure did. I beat his ass. I hit him right with that goddamn stick right there. I beat his ass. I sure did. Burnt him up, and your dumbass grandson done scattered the ashes on the goddamn horseback. I did it, and I'll do it again. She was big and pregnant. She's mad. Morning sickness. Somebody type morning sickness. Have you ever dealt with a woman with morning sickness? She had morning sickness. Okay? Sometimes, some of y'all like, why she should have just held out. She would never know. They ain't had no, it wasn't no CSI back then. You know what I'm saying? No CSI Missouri. They would have never found out. The forensics is no bullet, no evidence, nobody, no crime, right? Anyway, she got arrested. And the thing is, they didn't unalive her right away, because in Missouri, that's a black woman killing the whites. So I said, beautiful story. Y'all ugly. But anyway, back then, a woman had a right to kill a man for forcing her to have sex with him. Okay, but see, here's the problem. Celia was enslaved, so that didn't count for her. But her lawyers fought for months, pulling every law they could to save her. And while all this was going on, sometime between October and December, she gave birth, and the baby was stillborn. You know what I'm saying? She probably dealing with it's a lot of stress to deal with. You know what I mean? It's a lot of stress. The baby was stillborn. And, even the judge admitted that, the law should protect her, but she still refused to apply it. But they didn't apply the law because she was, wasn't seen as fully human under the law. So this rotten old man had a right to do whatever he wanted to do it. And so on December 21st, 1855, 19-year-old Celia was taken to the gallows and she was hung. Her two little biracial kids were sold to her Harry Newsom, who was, that would have been their uncle, right? That would have been the granddaddy. That would have been Robert Newsom's son, and he bought his own sisters. You see, that was it. That's it. That's the end of the story. This is how it went for years and centuries. You see, but she did because he went first though. Okay. Now, are y'all learning something? You looked that case up though, man. Y'all should look that case. You should learn a little bit. Now I'm gonna tell you a little bit. Another story. Have y'all ever been to Montego Bay? How many of y'all have ever been down to Montego Bay? Has any of you all ever been to Jamaica, Montego Bay? Have you ever heard the story of the White Witch of Rose Hall? Have any of y'all ever heard of the White Witch from Rose Hall? Her name is Annie Palmer. Okay? She's a very cruel plantation owner, a very violent woman. Okay? She was born Annie Patterson and the daughter of two European colonizers. Her mama was from England, her daddy was from Ireland, and they moved to Haiti, which was a colony at the time, to take advantage of the wealth, and they did well for themselves. So she grew up with comfort, and she had a nanny, and the story gets bad because what ended up happening was during the 1800s, Haiti was a place of constant unrest. There's a lot of beefing, as you know. You know what I'm saying? A lot of political chaos. It spread across Europe, and Haiti was no exception. And what ended up happening is her mom and her daddy died of the fever, the yellow fever. Okay. And so it ended up killing both of them. And so after their death, Annie was left in the care of an enslaved woman. I don't know, they don't know who her name was, but she wasn't ordinary. She was let's say strong cultural roots and deep knowledge of voodoo. Okay, now of course by 1804, folk had to get out of there. They had to get up out of there because the Haitians was whooping butt. And so they end up, but anyway, the first thing is she was raised by this nanny who was a voodoo person, okay? And, and apparently she liked the little girl and the little girl liked her. Of course, it was not an equal relationship. It wasn't equal free. I mean, this woman is truly her slave, even though she's her nanny. And, the thing is, as I said, she taught Annie to practice voodoo, okay? Because she was highly skilled in it. And she was apparently respected in the tradition. And so whether Annie learned voodoo or not, I don't know. I don't know anything about that. But the bottom line is she was a wealthy white woman, and, and this is it. And so under the guidance of a powerful practitioner of voodoo, Annie learned these practices herself. And this knowledge and the power that came with it would later cause fear and problems when Annie moved to her next home. Now, she turned 19, and 19, it's time for you to get on out there, okay? And her nanny died, and Nanny had grown up surrounded by comfort and luxury, and she wanted to keep that going. So she did what women normally do when they want to keep that going. She found a man and married him. His name was John Palmer. John Palmer was the grandnephew of the man who built Rose Hall in Jamaica, and this is over in Montego Bay. And so from the very beginning, Rose Hall had a dark history filled with tragedy and repeated deaths. And the house itself was built from limestone, which some people believe attracts certain kinds of energy, whether you believe that or not. Either way, Annie married John Palmer, and most accounts of marriage was fairly stable at first. But see, there's one problem. Annie took on lovers. Annie from Haiti, okay, the voodoo queen, she had sexual relationships with lots of black men. Okay, and here's the part you got to understand. Of course, that's going to make John mad. John ain't trying to go behind that. You out there banging the slaves? Are you kidding me? And so he started. He was physically abusive to her one time. Okay, one time, and Annie wasn't going for it. All right, so you got Annie, white Haitian Annie, and white Jamaican John. He messed around and hit her, and he ended up dead the next day. Dead. Okay, she made sure he was gone, and this is an important pattern. Okay, because the white witch, she did it a couple more times. And here's the cold part about it: she took on male lovers, black men, enslaved male lovers, and somehow they'll get dispatched. They come up missing, they come up disappeared. So you go in there and hit that, and it's like, man, that's it. He ain't gonna happen. You gone. Yeah, Miss Annie want to see you up at the big house. Oh no, I ain't going. You coming in there, the next thing you know, you disappear. Okay? She was out of here. So she did that to what they say hundreds of black men. Okay, I mean they say she went through suitor after suitor. They call them suitors, but one thing never changed: her appetite for enslaved people. And I use the word appetite on purpose, but she consumed men. She took what she wanted, and when she was finished with them, she disposed of them in very cruel ways. She tortured the slave men. Some of them she killed. She did whatever she wanted to do. This lily white woman whose mama is from Europe and daddy is from Europe. And eventually Annie kept it, but she got another one. His name was Tonku. Somebody write Tonku in the chat room. And here's the thing. We don't know if Tonku and Annie had a sexual relationship or not. Okay? But here's the thing. What was clear was that Tonku also practiced voodoo. He was a practitioner. He was a Jamaican voodoo master or whatever. All right, now he had a granddaughter, and his granddaughter's name was Millicent. And what ended up happening was Millicent was a pretty girl, beautiful little girl, beautiful girl. And Annie controlled over all the slaves. It began to fade because she wasn't looking as cute as she used to. And she had her sights on another white husband. But instead of choosing Annie, that new man, he decided he liked Millicent. And Annie wasn't having no parts of that. So in response, Millicent ended up mysteriously dying. She slowly withered away. You understand? So I don't know if it was poison or whatever, but she died. Right? That's what happened. And the plantation felt it. The enslaved people felt it. And Tonku, her granddaddy, was not feeling that. See, Millicent wasn't just another victim. That was his grandbaby. You know how people feel about their grandbaby? That's my grandbaby. That's my first grandbaby. That's my blood. Granddaddy killed granddaddy, baby girl. Oh, no. So what ended up happening is Tonku, he began watching Annie. He kept an eye on her. Watch this bitch. Motherfucker, bitch, kill my granddaddy. He's probably talking to himself over there. Get this bitch. I bet he was. I bet he was looking at her. And anyway, he was watching. He watched her movements. Probably peeping through seeing where she at. Her rituals and all that sort of stuff. And he held her responsible for his granddaughter. You say the same woman that ruled in fear and power, she crossed the line when she messed with his grandbaby. So he ended up, what he did was he ended up waiting around, and he made the decision that he was going to unalive Annie. Okay? And that night, Annie was sleeping in the big house. Okay? She thought she was safe, and Tonku slipped up in that room, right? And no warning, and he just choked her out, just double hand choked out, and ended the life right there. Same way she had ended all these other men and slaves and his granddaughter he filled. You see what I'm saying? But the bottom line is this whole story is about this depravity and debauchery. And no matter how many ways the story is told, one thing remains true. Annie Palmer, she had all this power. It was unchecked. She could do what she want to do, and this is what she decided to do. This is what this good Christian white woman who practiced voodoo decided to do. Take advantage of people. This is the culture. You understand what I'm saying? This is the culture. I need y'all to understand that. Now, when we talk about the great of black men and boys, are y'all learning something? Have y'all learned something? Let me know if you learned something. Let me know, because we 3 hours in, we got 14 super chats. Have y'all subscribed to the channel yet? That's what I need to know. Can we get, let me see where we are on my subscriptions. I need to look and see if you all are doing the job you're supposed to do, because it's a free job. You don't even have to pay anything. Let me make sure you all have subscribed to my channel. I had, I got goals. I got goals and ambitions. And I have an ambition to get into 100,000 subscribers in the next few months, and I need you all to help me get to where I'm trying to get to. Okay, so it doesn't cost you anything to subscribe. So you guys make sure you subscribe to the channel. What is my subscriber count? It's like impossible to try to pull this up. It's almost impossible. Y'all subscribe to the channel now. Try to pull this up and hit the like button too. Make sure you hit the like button. We got to get that like button going. Hit the like button now. Take some time. Make sure that not only do you hit the like button, but you also hit the notification bell after you hit the like button. Because if you hit the like button and don't hit the notification bell, YouTube will fake you out. And I've learned that recently too. They are really trying to undermine my progress here. And I don't think that's cool, but yeah, okay, so we got 92,539 people. I'm going to need I'm going to need 11 people to subscribe to the channel who haven't subscribed yet, so we can get 92,050. Y'all go ahead and do that now. I need 11 people to subscribe. Double check, make sure you subscribe. Subscribe now. I need 11 people to subscribe so we can get to 92,500. Okay, so let's get back to the broadcast. You guys hit the #1 button if you can hear me clearly, and make sure you subscribe. So we're going to talk about something that's very rarely discussed, and that is the great of black men and boys during slavery. And that's one of the most deliberately erased realities of American history. I don't want to talk about this. Okay, again, we are not surprised by Jeffrey Epstein. We are not surprised by him at all. We are not surprised by the files, and we're not surprised by the number of people and the so-called elite rich people who are involved in it. We are not surprised because we understand this. This is who we've been living next to. This is not surprising to us. You know, a society that called itself Christian, shout out to Trill Team 6, call itself Christian, righteous, and civilized. You know, you can openly, they can't openly acknowledge that white men going to church, law-abiding men, fathers, and husbands were sexually abusing enslaved black boys and men. And to admit that truth would have exposed slavery not just as violent, but as sexually predatory at its core. And although you may be able to say, yeah, plausible deniability, yeah, this girl wanted, how you gonna justify this big black man? He ain't want, he ain't no, hell no. You see what I'm saying? So it just goes to the depraved nature of these individuals. Anybody who would keep somebody in bondage for life and do all those things, you're depraved by nature. You understand? You're a depraved person. And so as a result, the violence survives only in fragments. I want y'all to pay attention. You got to listen to the euphemisms and the silences and the careful wording in the moment where the language breaks down under the weight of what cannot be safely said. And so that's how we're going to go about understanding these accounts. And one of the famous people that we know, we discussed it here on this particular broadcast, is Old Fred. Somebody type Old Fred in the chat room. Somebody type Old Fred in the chat room. Y'all remember we talked about Old Fred the other night? He married that white girl. Remember I told y'all he probably did it because he was petty? Yeah, y'all made me have to go back in and think, but he was petty. So let me tell you about what happened to Old Fred. So to understand Frederick Douglass, what he's doing in his narrative life of Frederick Douglass, you have to understand the world he was writing in. See, this was a society that publicly claimed to be Christian and moral and sexually pure, especially among white men. And yet, the homosexuality was not just taboo, it was considered sinful, okay, pursuant to the Holy Bible. It was shameful, it was unspeakable, it was an abomination. And so a white man openly accused of SAing another man or boy, he wouldn't only just face moral condemnation, but religious scandal. They might put him out to church. You understand what I'm saying? And the church was all they had. And so because of this male on male SA violence was almost never written about directly, even when it happened. And so this silence doesn't mean it was rare. In fact, the opposite is true. This sexual domination of men and boys was already well documented in European history. I mean, before American history, you know, the Greeks and the Roman societies, they openly practiced these exploitation of little men, boys, and enslaved men. Especially the elites. That's their thing. You understand? That's part of their culture. They have arrived. You understand? So in parts of Europe, this behavior continued quietly in the modern era. And it didn't change when they came over. You think they realized the location changed their proclivities? Not at all. Same people, same culture. You see? And so even in Christianity, and it's publicly condemned, but they're doing it behind closed doors. And what changed was not the behavior, it was the language. Okay, so by the 18th century, 19th century, the Christian society still tolerated these acts in private. Shout out to Omari 13E. They tolerated the acts in private, but they refused to name them in public. They knew what was going on. How could they not know? Right? And so that's the world Frederick Douglass was writing in at the time. This is when he wrote his book. He couldn't just outright say that. So when Frederick Douglass describes being stripped naked in his book, and I'm talking about his book, you can get the book, okay? Again, you can get the book. It's called The Life and Times of, the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass. He says this specifically. He talks about being stripped naked and tied and taken into isolation. You don't take nobody into isolation when you want to teach the other slaves a lesson. You beat him up right then and there. Right? So everybody can see it. And physically dominated by an older white man. He's not describing ordinary punishment. And these details matter. Douglass knew exactly what he was doing. Remember, he was biracial. He was mixed. He was one of them. A product of what was going on in the 1700s. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It was so pervasive. But Frederick Douglass knew exactly what he was doing. He had already taught his readers how to read this kind of violence when he described the abuse of his aunt Hester earlier in the book. You see, there the sexual meaning is obvious with him. With himself, he had to be careful because naming sexual assault against a black boy by a white Christian man would have made the book unacceptable to publish. Nobody's going to read it. You see, and this is why Douglass relies on euphemisms. And when he says he was stripped of my, he was stripped of my clothing, he means naked. When he says the abuse happened in the woods or the fields, he means away from witnesses. When he says he was broken, body, soul, and spirit, he's describing total violation. That's not just physical pain. That's Douglass telling the truth, but he's telling it in a way that would not get the book banned or dismissed or ignored by white Christian audience. Shout out to Faquan. And so the silence around homosexual activity during slavery, it was deliberate. The enslavers were not just white men. These were church-going men. They were pillars of the community. They were governors. They ran the place. Men who claimed moral authority. Men who preached discipline and purity. Why didn't Charlie Kirk talk about that type of stuff? See, this is what I would have talked about. That's why I want him alive. That's why, you understand what I'm saying? Why are we not talking about that? When we talk about the founders of the country that were so much, why? Let's talk about this. You see? These church-going men of high morals who brought civilization to the wilderness of North America. This is what we should have been lucky. What are you talking about? We lucky to be here? You preach discipline and purity while committing acts they could never publicly admit. And so Frederick Douglass writing openly about male rape, that would have exposed not just individual cruelty, but a deep moral rot at the center of the Christian society. And so this is why Douglass never uses modern words like rape or essay. Those words existed, but they could not be safely applied to white men abusing black boys, because to do so would have shattered the image of the Christian virtue and slavery depended on. So when people say Douglass never said he was sexually aid or SA, they're misunderstanding how enslaved people were allowed to speak. Silence was not denial, silence was survival. Douglass' narrative makes one thing clear. Enslaved black boys were not only beaten, they were stripped, they were restrained, they were isolated, they were dominated in ways that fit known patterns of sex abuse. And the fact that this abuse had to be hidden behind religious language and euphemisms and silence, it tells us how common and how protected it was. See, slavery was not just about a labor system. It was about sexual control and domination, enforced by law, and hidden by Christianity and protected by silence. And Frederick Douglass knew exactly that. Now, Fred, again, in his book, Narrative of a Narrative Life of the Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, an American Slave, he provides one of the clearest examples of what is now commonly referred to as buck breaking. I've heard that term before, right? Fred talked about it. You didn't have to wait for Brother Tariq Nasheed to put it out. You could have read it in Frederick Douglass's book. That's how he was broken, buck breaking. And it shows how sexual violence was used publicly to punish and terrorize people. Now, Harriet Jacobs' account, she speaks about Luke, and it reveals something more disturbing. And you're like, can't be more disturbing than that. Yes, it does. In Luke's case, the violence was private, and it was ongoing and disconnected from any act of resistance. He wasn't being punished. It was about pleasure for his white master and access and control. And together, Douglass and Jacobs exposed the full reality of the sexual violence under slavery. It was not simply a disciplinary tool, but a routine expression of power in a system where enslavers could act on their desires without consequence. Again, the young man's name was Luke. He was a boy. I am a boy, Damon. Right? So let's talk about it. Another book, Harriet Jacobs published a book called Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl. It came out in 1861. This is the one that spent, she describes how things go. Most likely, let me just run it back. She's the one, she referred to herself as Linda, and she literally hid from her master for 7 years. You understand what I'm saying? Did everything she could to get away from him. Again, we all know why we talking about this. We talk about Jeffrey Epstein, right? During Black History Month. That's what we was going to talk about during Black History Month. No, we're not. We're going to talk about Black history during Black History Month. And it's because of Black history that Black Americans are not shocked by the Epstein files, as grotesque and horrible as they are. Because we have Frederick Douglass, we have Harriet Jacobs, we have the stories that we've heard from our own family members passed down. The bottom line is this happened. The book was published in 1861, and she described most likely what happened to her was between 1820 and 1840 when she was a young girl. She was born in 1813. And I want y'all to understand, the situation she was dealing with happened between 1820 and 1840. That's only 7 years. 7 years. To 27. And she hid for 7 years. You understand what I'm saying? But anyway, it happened around Edenton, North Carolina. That's the vicinity she refers to throughout the book. and it consistently points to the eastern North Carolina a slaveholding coastal region where she lived and where most of the events of the narrative in her book occurred. And when Jacob says she was acquainted with an enslaved man named Luke, she means she personally knew him as part of the local enslaved community. And Luke was real; he was a real person. It's not rumor. You know, it's not a story she heard secondhand. And so when Harriet Jacobs writes that Luke's enslaver became a prey to vices. So here's the backstory. So basically, this young master, he got a slave, and he ended up getting sick or hurting himself like that. So he became crippled. And, he didn't have anything else, no wife, no nothing. He was already a mean cuss, but relatively young man, okay? And he couldn't get a woman, right? Didn't have a woman. All he had was this little man slave, right? A little young boy named Luke, all right? And so she writes about this story, right? And she writes about Luke's enslaver. It became prey to the vices of slavery. And she's using 19th century moral language to describe sexual depravity and sadism and the loss of self-control. Not merely, we're not talking about drinking, laziness. We're talking about depravity. And so in abolitionist literature of the time, vices in the context of slavery often referred to sexual excess and coercion and exploitative behavior enabled by absolute power. And so Harriet, she explains that the enslaver returned home unable to use his limbs. Remember I told you he got sick due to excessive dissipation, sick, whatever. Okay, people in her time understood this phrase to mean the man had physically broken himself through extreme sexual behavior and debauchery or disease. Okay, so Jacob used careful wording because writing explicit sexual details would have made the book impossible to publish. Same thing with Frederick Douglass. And so when Jacob says Luke was ordered to, listen to me now, this boy, this young black man, he was ordered to bare his back and kneel. He was ordered to bare his back and kneel. And the phrase carries dual meaning. On his face, it refers to a whipping, a beating, right? And that was common. Punishment was common. But Jacobs doesn't describe this the way she describes ordinary lashings everywhere. She doesn't say bare his back for the lash. She says bare his back and kneel. And so bare his back for the lash in the standard formula is used everywhere in slave narratives. Instead, she emphasizes the kneeling, proximity, repeat submission, followed by her statement that some acts were too filthy to be repeated. And so in the 19th century, you can only imagine what he was doing. You see what I'm saying? You only imagine. He's a slave. It's a boy who's a slave. He didn't have any rights. You see? Yeah. We are not surprised by Epstein. You understand? See, in the 19th century, these euphemistic writings, especially by women, this was a way, this was recognized, I should say. It's a way of signaling sexual violation without explicit description. Okay? Now, she said back. That literally means upper back. But surrounding the details strongly suggests humiliation, sexualized exposure, not just the top of his back. You understand what I'm saying? And the line, some days he was not allowed to wear anything but a shirt. Some days this black man had to walk around only with a shirt on in order to be readiness to be flawed. You understand what I'm saying? Let me read that to you again. Some days he was not allowed to wear anything but his shirt in order to be in readiness to be flawed. This is especially important. Readiness here, it does not mean efficiency. It means constant vulnerability. Luke was kept partially unclothed, so punishment or abuse could occur at any moment without resistance or delay. And see, this was the method of continuous domination, not discipline. This is not buck breaking. You understand? You see the difference? And I wanted to bring that up because we often talk about the buck breaking as a means of punishment. No, this wasn't. This is what this man was subjected to, because you got this depraved cat, just nasty. And see, clothing in slavery was tied to dignity and bodily autonomy. Stripping him down to his shirt ensured permanent sexual and physical availability. And this was not a metaphor or a later interpretation. It was a lived condition of exposure and control. And Jacobs also shows that this abuse is not just private. Did you know he explained that she explained that when the slaver's arm got weak, he relied on the town constable to carry out the whipping, because he had to keep beating this man. You understand? Because the man refused. Eventually, he ran off. Okay, and the details matter. The constable was not a private servant. Shout out to Urban Eagle. The constable was not a private servant. He was recognized as law enforcement, and his involvement means the abuse that Luke had to endure. It was not hidden. It was not misunderstood. Nor was it confined to a household. It was known. It was witnessed. It was enforced by the local arm of the law, and the constable's participation confirms that what was happening to Luke was socially sanctioned. Okay, and he knew Luke's condition, and this means that the abuse that Luke, a black enslaved person, suffered was known to the local authorities, and the enforcement by them was probably known to everybody in the community. Harriet knew. The constable knew. You understand? The state kept him in submission and exposure, and still carried out violence on behalf of the slaver. You don't do what your master say, I don't care what it is. You go and do it, or I'm gonna beat you. And that proves that the cruelty was socially accepted and legally supported, and law enforcement was not ignoring the abuse, it was helping maintain it. I mean, this woman said that some of the things that this slave white man did to this man was too filthy to repeat. It crossed even the brutal norms of slavery. You see, these Victorian era women authors, they don't describe male on male sexual assault explicitly. You see, but the abolitionists, they understood this. They understood exactly what was going on. And this is why people was fighting like hell to get out of slavery. I mean, here's another one. Luke was kept chained to the bedside. And what that's suggesting is it's enforced intimacy, keep an eye on, control beyond punishment. You see? Repeated kneeling, so to speak, involvement of law enforcement. All of this shows this was not ordinary punishment. It was ongoing sexualized brutality. You see? Now, the thing is, why this matters? Well, Harriet Jacobs didn't exaggerate. She understated because she had to. Her language reflects the limits that Black women could safely publish when they wrote articles in 1861. But when read honestly, her account confirms the sexual exploitation of enslaved men and boys was real. It was repeated, and it was embedded in slavery itself just as much as the sexual exploitation of women. It wasn't confined to myths or rumors or later interpretations. And see, this is not speculation. It is the text says what it says, and once you understand what it says, you get it. Okay, now I'm gonna bring this home. Are y'all still with me? I don't want to bore y'all, but I just want to bring it home for you. I got a little bit more to say. I'm gonna read the super chats. We're gonna ease out of here. All right. Again, we're talking about why Black Americans are not shocked by Jeffrey Epstein, aren't we? That's what we're talking about. We learning something. I'm giving you the answer. This is why we're not shocked. We are not surprised when we hear there's another freaky white man doing freaky white man stuff. We know. It's not shocking to us. And the truth is, white people are not shocked either because they know themselves. You understand? But again, when Frederick Douglass and Harriet Jacob reveal in their books, shout out to Faquan, is that sexual violence against black men and boys was not accidental, it was not rare or confined to moments of discipline. Okay, in other words, it wasn't all just it wasn't just butt breaking. It was woven into the structure of slavery itself. These public acts like butt breaking, it served terrorize people. But the private abuse, like Luke served the desire, and both were protected by law. This was the law of the land. Both were hidden behind religion. Both depended on sodomy. You see why they had to enact the sodomy laws now? You understand why? They had to outlaw it. This is why they outlawed it. They just legalized it a couple of years, because people got rights. And that's different. People want to get married and knock yourself out. But they literally had to come up with laws to stop these dudes from sodomizing these black slaves. You understand me? Now, is it all coming together now? Didn't I tell y'all earlier, most of the laws created in this country had something to do with something that they were trying to deal with black folks? Do you understand that? So not only did we make this country, we're the reason that everything goes back to us and our existence here. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. Black men had no incentive. Shout out to Flowers with the Lord. Black men they had no incentive to talk about that. Why would they confess something like that happened? Why would they want to bring shame and disbelief and further abuse? Why? So writers like Douglas and Jacob, they didn't omit the truth. They encoded it. And once the code is understood, the pattern is unmistakable. Slavery was not only a system of forced labor. Get that out your head. It was a system of sexual access enforced by violence, justified by Christianity, and upheld by law enforcement. And you wonder why we don't like the police. The police enforce the laws, even if they're immoral as hell. And so let's stop just saying that they just did it for buck breaking. No, it wasn't just about punishment. I got 2 major books by 2 major people. You can read those books. You don't have to search the internet. You can get each one of those books for $13 on the internet. See, the truth is harder and darker and far more damning. See, this abuse happened because enslavers wanted it because they could get away with it and because the system was designed to protect them. And one more thing I'm going to tell you, see, the reason they always say, oh, it was buck breaking, it was, punishment, because that gives them moral cover. They can say, well, it's just part of the punishment. This is what we do. No, that ain't just what you do. First, it's nasty. It's nasty. Another thing is, you did it for the pleasure of it, because you're some weirdos and freaks, just like Jeffrey Epstein. But man, we've been here for a minute. I want to go ahead and read my super chats. I got 21 super chats. Thank you guys so much. Let's check out the Cash App. Did y'all learn something tonight? Did you learn something? If you learned something, I should earn something. Let me see what my subscriber. Man, my subscriber count has not moved. What's up with y'all? Have y'all not subscribed to the channel? I absolutely know this broadcast will not be monetized. So I need you guys to make sure you subscribe to the channel so I can get something out of this. I would appreciate if you guys would subscribe to the channel. I would like to get something out of this, man. We had microphone problems. We had all kind of issues, but I got through it. Okay, we got, let me give a shout out to Shaniza. Thank you so much. And Robert Williamson. Thank you. Say job well done. I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, family. We got 22 super chats. Let's see if we can get to 20. Can we get to 25 before I ease on out of here? Hardened History, startup offering. Thanks for having us again. No problem. Thank you, brother. Uncle D, FBA made it on ABC News. Love the broadcast. Since I'm learning something, you should earn something. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Clyde, FBA Green, salute to you, Uncle D. Thank you so much. Faquan, super sticker, thank you so much for the super sticker. Torian Jones, they're offended by the N-word, but not by exclusion. Thank you so much, family. I appreciate you for that. Who else we got in here? Faquan, thank you again, man. Faquan came through, man. Thank you so much. Appreciate that super chat. Let me see here. I got another one from Faquan. Thank you. Thank you. And Torian Jones, thank you for the $5 super sticker. And then we also have Torian Jones. We don't sue for defamation in the hood. We run fade. LOL. Trump will sue. Thank you so much, man. Yeah, you start suing. You get more money out of it. All right, we got 22 super chats. Faquan and Faquan, thank you so much again for the super stickers. Officially, Zay's story. He says, a salute, Uncle D. Have you heard people's passports are being randomly reported stolen, them getting deported back to the U.S. trying to trap us in the, oh, Lord, that's crazy. Fire for effect. Thank you for the $10 super sticker. Faquan, thank you for the $5 super sticker. Oh, let's see. Trill Team 6. Blizzard is a massive research. Probably got dirt on Brad today. Man, I just, when these issues come up, I just try to do more research on what I already know so that I can be fully prepared to, bring it to you all so you can have this information. Look, again, there's nothing new under the sun, and I just try to bring this information to you. Most of this stuff is stuff you already know. You have hints of it. I hope you've heard it. You talk to your family. You've been in this country long enough. You're black. So you know the history. You just don't have the dates, times, and people. I just like to give you the resources. You can't walk out of here and not be smarter. You know what I'm saying? Because just sitting here listening to it, and I try to say it in a way, make it interesting. This is some boring stuff we doing up in here. Boy, this is history. We talk about something from 300 years ago. This is boring. But I try to make it interesting. I try to bring the stories. I try to make it as real as possible. I try to dig into them and learn where they're from. And, just so it can be an interesting story for you all, man. So thank you so much. I appreciate that's the way people learn. And that's the way you get the best for your buck. Trill Team, very informative moments in FBI history. I love to hear about the answers that ran the fade. Ran the fade? Yeah, he did. She ran the fade, didn't she? Omari, 1Bay7, thank you so much for the 99. And Omari, thank you so much for the $4.99. And Faquan, thank you for the $5 super sticker. Urban Eagle, thank you for the $5 and super sticker for Faquan. Faquan came through heavy. Flowers Galore, thank you for the $5 super chat. Great Black History lesson, Uncle D. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Retro Black Wolf 3413, Uncle D giving out PhD lessons. Yeah, I am. I've been doing a lot. What is Black History Month, man? Somebody got to do it. They're banning it. So let me give you what you should have. Jug, thank you so much for the Juggernaut. Thank you so much for the $3 super chat. All right, we got 24 super chats. Maybe we'll get to 25 before I finish. But either way, let me go ahead and give you this blistering closing statement. Let me break this down. I want everybody to come in, all my folks to come in. I want y'all to listen to me, okay? Let's talk. All right? I want you to talk to me. All right, let's chop it up. All right, so white folks, where you white folks at? Where my white nationalists at? I thought y'all like to come troll my page. They ran them off. Isn't that something? I done ran off the white nationalists. They love to come over to black people's pages to see what we doing. They stopped coming here after I talk about them Yahtzees. Them black soldiers and them Yahtzees, they stopped coming over here after that. Yeah, you come over here, I'm going to hurt your feelings. You're going to get your feelings hurt. It's going to be graphic. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm just going to tell you the truth. It's going to hurt your feelings. They stopped coming. But anyway, what people are telling you in this moment in history isn't happening in a vacuum. That's what I need y'all to understand. You look at events over the last year, the landscape of violence and exposure and the public shock has been shaped by real deaths and real ugliness that America didn't want to face. Now, September 10th, 2025, conservative commentator Charlie Kirk, he got unalived on stage doing a live event. A violent act broadcast widely and reported. Some of you all saw the video. I saw the video, right? Okay. White man. White man. We don't see that very often in this country, do we? white man. Okay. January 7th, 2026, New Year, Renee Nicole Good, 37-year-old Minneapolis mother, 3, fatally shot by U.S. immigration officer. We saw that up close and personal. We got the videotape. White woman. White woman. We don't see that ever. We never seen a white woman get unalived like that. Not 2 weeks later, January 24th, Alex Peretti, Minneapolis, ICU nurse, shot and killed. They say, oh yeah, he might be guilty. He might have been whatever he was doing. He's still a white man. White man. Another white person. That's 3 white people back to back to back. And here we go. January. Epstein files release. Millions. I don't care what they say. Epstein is quite white. He's a white billionaire. All these documents. Decades-long network of exploitation involving little people by rich adults. You understand me? This wasn't an anonymous leak. This was the federal government ordered to do it by the Congress. And they released this material showing communications, travels, photos, and videos of white people. White people doing white people stuff. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 horrible things happening. You understand? And the public was finally given access to this raw paper trail. I talked about it above, but here's the thing I want you to understand. Let me bring this on home. Yet, you have the governor of Florida banning key elements of American history, Black history, particularly lessons on slavery and the atrocities, on the grounds that it might make white children feel bad about themselves. You understand that? It might make white people feel bad about themselves. Now that policy rationale, that's real. That's how they really feel, right? And it reveals a deeper truth about what is acceptable to confront and what is still off limits in public education. But let me be clear about something. The goal of the ban was never to protect innocence. If that were true, white children today have plenty to feel bad about. Did I just not explain? They watched 3 white people get unalived in public all over social media. They watched the sexual exploitation network tied to Jeffrey Epstein involving white elites and white little girls and boys. You understand me? I mean, if the point of censoring history was to keep white children from feeling discomfort about the past, this ain't it for them. Look, no, people don't. I don't want white children to feel bad. I don't want all you little white kids. I don't want you to feel bad. That's not what I'm here. That's not what Uncle B is doing. But I'm absolutely certain that they do. And I'm sure that the victims of Jeffrey Epstein feel bad also. And I'm sure they feel the weight of exposure and betrayal and dehumanization. And there's no difference in how the system historically was and how it is today. And it has made victims feel horrible from violence of the American slave system. You see, to that cruelty was inflicted on Black women and children and boys and men. It's no different than this modern scandal we see unfolding before our public eye. Do you think the victims of Annie Palmer and her cruelty, do you think they felt bad? Did you think they suffered? Do you think Celia didn't feel pain when she had to whack that man upside the head? I mean, that is her baby daddy. That was her baby daddy. All right. Old Robert Newsom was her baby daddy. She had a new man and everything, but she had 2 kids by that man. You didn't think she'd feel bad? What about her little biracial children? Found out your mama unalived your daddy and they hung your mama. You ain't got no family. Now you living with your so-called uncle. know what's going to happen to you. You don't think they felt bad? All those women and children raped under slavery, you don't think they felt pain? Feeling bad is not a reason to hide the truth. If we don't speak the truth to white children and to all children, then they'll never understand that there's a sickness in y'all's culture and a pattern that didn't start yesterday, and that won't go away unless white folk are willing to acknowledge it. Y'all need to stand up. Now, let me talk to you white dudes real quick. I hope all the white male, Nazi, white, bring your ass on up in here. White men account for the largest share of arrests and convictions in several serious S crimes. Okay? Y'all quick to call it, what do they call us, 1350? Y'all calling us 1350 all the time. 13% of the people commit 50% of the crime. Well, let me talk to you white dudes. 79% of you all, you commit 79% of the essays. And I'm talking about to children. That's what you do. You consume that. You possess the film of children. 79% of y'all. That's who's getting convicted, to the tune of 79% of the convictions of the production of, I don't even want to say it, of PDF footage, you white men. Even the production of it, 59% of y'all, it's really 60%. It's 59% of y'all producing that PDF footage. You get arrested and convicted. 59%. No, hey, y'all doing it. And when we talking about grapes, you all approximately 70% of the grapers. That's what you do. You've been doing it. 70% of the people arrested for graping, white men. Or they say white people, but we know it's a predominantly white male, it's a male thing, okay? So you got your own statistics y'all need to focus on. Now, if you take that together from the FBI, these databases demonstrate that white male represent the largest number of percentage of arrests and federal convictions in these categories. And when you measure the raw numbers, this is not a claim about, this is not anything you can dispute. This is what we're dealing with. When these serious SA crimes are officially documented and persecuted, it's white men that stand up front and tall and strong. That's what you do. That's your culture. And see, there's absolutely no way that this is unknown to white folk. We know it. Y'all know it too. You might be able to fool these immigrants and stuff who come over here, but we know y'all better than y'all know yourselves. We lived with you for 400 years. And there's absolutely no way the entire culture of white folk can engage in a behavior like this for centuries and claim ignorance when it finally gets exposed in the form of some Jeffrey Epstein files. There's also no way to protect white children from feeling discomfort about it, because the evidence of the sickness isn't hidden in obscure archives. It's been openly expressed and normalized and even celebrated in mainstream culture for decades. The idea that this is all new and shocking or accidental, a moment, right? Oh, no. Y'all have songs written about it. Your culture tells about it. I told you about the song Brown Sugar by the Rolling Stones. This isn't a fringe underground track. This is one of the most famous rock songs ever written, performed on the global stages, played on classic rock radio for decades, and lyrics are not subtle. The lyrics are: Gold Coast slave ship bound for cotton fields, sold in the market down in New Orleans. That directly references the transatlantic slave trade and chattel slavery. Scared old slaver, know he doing all right. Hear him whip the women just around midnight. Describe sexual violence and abuse happening under the cover of darkness. This is the Rolling Stones. You understand? Midnight isn't poetic here, it's practical. It's when oversight disappears. It's when power acts without witnesses. It's when crimes happen quietly. And now listen to this voice closely. I want you to hear this one. Lady of the house, wondering where it's going to stop. In other words, is he going to do this to my children? Is he going to do where's it going to stop? Next verse. Houseboy knows he's doing all right. Did you pay him something? Did you give him an extra piece of bread? Next line. You should have heard him just around midnight. So what does that say? The lady of the house isn't confused. She's complicit. She knows exactly what's going on. She knows just what her white man is doing. She wonders where it's going to stop because she knows exactly what's happening. And the houseboy knowing he's doing all right doesn't mean safety. It means survival through participation in a corrupt, perverted system that I don't want to describe. Midnight again, it signals secrecy, exploitation, and normalized abuse happening behind closed doors. This is not a metaphor detached from reality. This is a cultural memory expressed casually in a song without shame, cheered by crowds of folk. And that's the point. When a culture can turn slavery, rape, and sexual exploitation into a hit song and defend it for decades, there's no plausible claim for ignorance. And see, this has been going on. It didn't start with Epstein. It didn't start with private jets or islands. It's part of a long pattern of power and domination and secrecy and entitlement. And that has been repeatedly documented. It's been joked about, you see, but it's not denied. So y'all can't tell black people to stop talking about our historical trauma while y'all own culture has been singing about it and profiting from it and refusing to reckon on it. You understand what I'm saying? So no, this is not about making white kids feel bad. And I feel bad for all the children. Uncle D love the kids. Except you got some badass kids. I don't want your kids around me. Your kids bad. They loud and walking in front of my house and they loud as hell. Get your kids. Okay, I'm sorry. My bad. They be walking in front of my house. I'll be trying to study and focus. And loud ass kids getting off the damn bus. They loud. And somebody need to get the kids. I hope my neighbor get your kid. Kids yell when they get off the bus. You bothering me. Okay, you're lucky. I'm just saying. But either way, like I said, what I was saying. What was I talking about? Oh, look. What I'm trying to say is, okay, until you tell these children the truth, that there's a sickness in your culture that has been protected and normalized and passed down, then they're going to keep inheriting it without understanding. And that's the sickness. It's not going away just because someone bans a textbook. And silence doesn't heal culture. Truth does. Nevertheless, this is precisely why black people are not surprised by Epstein at all. And this exposure doesn't reveal something new to us. It confirms what history, lived experience, and long memory have already taught us. It's a bunch of ladies right now that did corporate. Y'all got some ladies right now. Y'all in corporate, some black ladies in corporate. And you know what them white men do in them cars with them black girls? You know what they do? You know what they do in them closets with those black girls? You know what those black middle management guys do with those black girls in those closets while they go home to their wives? Talking about they don't date black. You know what they do. They doing it right now. It ain't changed. But this is who we have known since we've been here in this country. You see? Not because of rumor or prejudice, but because of patterns that have repeated themselves from centuries, protected by power and denied by narrative. You understand what I'm saying? And, here's the thing. This is why, when y'all start talking about these white folk and how y'all want to live, and they don't want to live around black, I still live in a black neighborhood. I love living around my own people. You understand me? And we are not all the same. I love living around my people. You can say what you want to say. I'm safe around here. I love living around my black people. They be barbecuing. Sometimes they sit in the front yard. They be parking their Cadillacs. I'm like, come on, man. That dude, he parked his Cadillac in front of my house for like 3 or 4 weeks straight. I'm like, man, can you move that ragged ass Cadillac out of here? At least fix it up. But I love my people. I understand my people. And I don't have to worry about all that around my people. But anyway, oh, you know what? Yeah, before I close out, shout out to Wicked Angel. Look, black women, I want you to come in for me. I want you to listen real close to me. Come here. I want you to come on in tight. Come on up in here. I want you to listen real close. We're all the black women hit number 1. Come on, hit the number 1 button. I need to see the black women hit the number 1 button. I know y'all hear me. I know it's Friday. You're probably trying to roll your hair up and chill out. Now, come in here. Let me talk to you. All right, sister, come here. See, before we close out, what's up? There my girl is. Let me see. Yes, she is. I can't even say that name, but I'm going to put it up here. Nancy, I can't say your name. Flowers Galore. Connie, I'm going to call you Nanny. Nanny, I'm going to call you Nanny. All the black. I'm come on, let me talk to you for a minute. So, I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you hard-headed, big mouth, difficult to deal with, obstinate, strong, tough, mean, unfeminine black women. I want to talk to you because apparently Jeffrey Epstein didn't want none of y'all at his funky little island. And there's an email circulating where Jeffrey said openly and stated that he did not want black women brought to his island. He didn't use polite language. He didn't use academic language. He used the N-word with the hard ER. Now, I heard this a few days ago, and I remember thinking, well, damn, that's great. Yeah, that's wonderful. You know, racism has worked well for us. That's wonderful. He don't like black women. Great for him. That's awesome. But see, here's the thing. Before getting all the facts, we had a lot of podcasters and a lot of social media types. They just assumed that Jeffrey Epstein didn't want black women for the same reason that they don't like black women. Hard-headed, you know what I'm saying. But they really want to say, oh, they're just not pretty enough. That's what they want to say. You're not pretty enough. Somebody type pretty in the chat room. Not pretty. You see, you have to understand something about a lot of these people, both men and women. They already have deep-seated hate for themselves. So you can't expect black people like that who don't like themselves to assume the best. They're always going to assume the worst. Okay? Now, here's the truth. And I'm going to go ahead and pull this up because I want you all to see. Yeah, I want you all to see for yourself. Now, there was a lady, just to prove the point. Okay? I'm going to let you see something. Let me see if I can pull it up. Okay. He dated a black woman. Her name was Stacey Williams. She was a black model. She was a Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue model back in the early 1990s. I remember. I saw it. I remember. Okay, and this wasn't hidden or speculative. So the idea that Epstein avoided black women because he didn't find them attractive, that doesn't hold up. Okay, like most men, he clearly did find black women attractive. I've very rarely seen men around the world who don't find black women attractive. Black women come in all sorts of shades and colors. You fine as hell. That's not the issue. You see? That's not the issue. So I knew that was silly, right? However, when you read the email, because see, a lot of people didn't read the next page. It's a bunch of them. If you go on there, you got to read the next page. If you go further down, you'll understand it wasn't black women's desirability, but rather their willingness to fight back. Somebody type fight back in the chat room. Somebody type Celia from Missouri in the chat room. You hear me? Is it all coming? You see why I read that story to you? It is the issue of resistance. Jeffrey Epstein knew black girls would fight back. Black girls would tell their mama. Black girls would tell their grandmama. Black girls would not stay quiet. Black girls will not be this docile. This is what he put in the email. You understand me? This was his email. Everybody just ran with the story. The lady ain't look at the second page. Predators fear people who talk and fight back. That's not accidental. That's cultural. That's our culture. You see? I want you to understand. Let's conceptualize this. Black women were saved because the world, because, when the world wouldn't protect them, they protected their damn selves. Because they were willing to resist it and to expose, to fight back, to tell the truth, even when the system told them to shut up. That's the same spirit that you saw in Celia from Missouri in 1855. She did what she did. She spoke up. She resisted. And when the law failed her, as it always did, she still refused to submit quietly. So I want black men and black women to understand this. The reason we're still here is because we endured. We didn't endure because the system was kind to us. We didn't endure because the law was fair. We endured because our culture held us together when everything else was designed to tear us apart. Now, I want you to imagine the contrast on this, family. Listen to me now. Imagine being a young white girl in that world. She's raised believing and brainwashed to believe that, she's in a protected race by class. She's in proximity. She has this proximity to power. She's told her whole life she's superior. You're in the superior group, and that the system exists for her benefit. But when the abuse starts, all that disappears. And she can't speak. Not because she doesn't know what's happening is wrong, but because she knows exactly who's doing it. A billionaire white man with private planes and politicians on speed dial and intelligence connections and lawyers and judges and favors stacked on favors. She understands that. Even if nobody says it out loud, that telling could cost her everything. Her reputation, her future, her family standing, her life. So she stayed quiet. Silence becomes survival. And the system she was told would protect her because she's white becomes a thing that traps her. Now, I want you to think about this. Here's a black girl labeled as lowly by the racial hierarchy, told she has no status, no power, and no protection. And yet she's the one who Epstein was afraid of. Not because she had money, not because she had connections, but because she had a voice. Because one black girl talking to her mama and her grandmama and her aunties and her community could shut that whole nasty thing down. Because black families don't isolate pain, we circulate it. We talk, we warn, we expose. And Epstein knew that that's why a man who operated for decades with presidents and royalty and billionaires was terrified of black women. So terrified he didn't want them to anywhere near his island. I want you to think about that. A man with all the money in the world, all the protection, all the power, afraid of the voice of a black woman or black girl? That tells you everything. That tells you why silence is enforced where whiteness is supposed to protect. And it tells you why resistance, loud, stubborn, uncompromising resistance has always been the real power black people have had in a society designed to destroy us. The very traits the society criticizes in black women: toughness, stubbornness, unwillingness to submit, are the same traits that have helped keep alive our people for the past 400 years in this defiant, wretched society that we live in. Deviant. And that tells you everything you need to know about our culture. Shout out to the culture. The culture that these black immigrants or tethers, because it ain't all black immigrants I'm talking about. Some of y'all are 100% down. I'm talking about these tethers that sit up here and tell us we don't have a culture. It's the reason we're still here. It tells you about the spirit of foundational black American women. It tells you about the backbone of foundational black American families. It tells you about the resilience of foundational black American children. And it tells you why, despite everything this country has thrown at us, we are still standing. So the next time you're criticized as a black woman for being difficult, which you are very difficult, and you are hard-headed, then you will not submit. Understand that reputation for difficulty is the reason that hundreds, maybe thousands of little black women and girls weren't trafficked through Epstein Island like so many of these young white girls. See, we're not here by accident. We're here because we fight. We're here because we speak. We are here because we endure. And everybody knows it. And that's the truth. This is Uncle D. I love you all. And as I always said this time,
in the Spurling podcast. Hit the like button, subscribe.